Cascade Mountains. This is S4! Sit back, relax, and keep your eyes to the skies.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the serious issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State, here at our studio in Cape Horn, Concrete, Washington. And hell yeah, I'll take more coffee. So we are at our second to the last show of our 24-hour marathon. We have Cryptid with Bryan Bowden, and then at our normal time from 7 to 10 is our roundtable. So do you want to come on the roundtable as well, Bryan, or you got something to do?
Yeah, I'm here Huckleberry right now. So
does that mean I get to be Finn?
Excellent. So you're going to be out for the next 6 hours. All right.
Well, you know, when the kids start going a little bit crazy right now, it's 7 where I am.
Right.
You know, I'll mute it out, but I may have to run at certain points. But you know, I'll stay on as long as you want me to. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's no worries, because we'll be pulling Joe and Francie in as well. So we'll have a full panel. So if you got to cut, you got to cut.
Yeah. No, not a problem.
All right. So, how long have you been in the cryptid field, and what got you started?
Well, I've been in the cryptid field for probably at least 30 years. My whole thing started, you know, as a young kid watching all those lovely programs In Search Of, and, you know, doing some sci-fi stuff. I was always interested in monsters and aliens and UFOs, and then after I got to about the age of 12, I was able to really investigate somewhere on my own, in certain areas.
Okay.
But what really started it, when I'm looking back, was that back in the 70s, that's 77, 78, I was lucky enough to go to sleepaway camp, because my mother's a teacher, and she was the head counselor of the sleepaway camp in northwestern portion of Connecticut. And I remember being in my bunk one night, and I know when the counselors would come back from going out into town, you know, getting drunk, coming back to camp, and the lights would be out in the bunk, because finally they shut the lights up to go to sleep. So I woke up one night, and I'm on top of a double-decker, which was metal, and where my feet are, I'm in the corner of this bunk, and my feet happen to be right by this window that's there. And if you look at the window from the outside, in order to get to the bottom portion of the square window, probably about a 3-foot wide window, you'd have to be about at least 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. So I wake up, and I have to use the bathroom as a young kid, and I notice the lights are out in the bunk, and I'm smelling this terrible smell, like skunk, which I'm used to for the most part. It is summer camp in Connecticut, and I'm about to get out of bed when I see something that looks like a very large monkey looking in the window. And it definitely looked like a face.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like a bit nervous at this point. You can see the nose, you can see where the top of the brow is. It's moving. It's like kind of like trying to check out everything that's going on inside the bunk. So I froze in my bed. And it was there for a long, long while. Eventually, about an hour later, my bladder won out. So
Right.
I very slowly inched my feet back because this thing was right by my feet. Its head was right by my feet. The only thing that separated us was a fractions of an inch of glass. It could have just broke the glass, grabbed me, and pulled me right out.
Right.
And I slid down. I did a dog paddle underneath a bunch of beds. Went to the bathroom. But that was my first experience, and I kind of put that to the back of my head because growing up in the East Coast, all you ever heard about with these cryptids were the Pacific Northwest, right?
Right. Right.
You got you got the famous Patty footage out there, Patterson film, which I think is the holy grail of all footage. I think it's 100% legit, and and it's the holy grail.
I would
East Coast. Yes, sir.
I would fully agree. You got so many skeptics. Oh no, it's faked.
Nah.
No, hell no. If I remember right, they actually were lie detector tested or polygraphed and passed it. And so the skeptics will say, "Well, that could be done. Yeah, that could be done. You could lie and pass it." Not back then.
Yeah. There are people that could do that. Yeah,
everything was Pacific Northwest. Everything was, Patty. But then you had the Missouri monster, and then you had the Fouke monster.
Right.
That whole the one that scared me to death was that damn Boggy Creek monster.
Boggy Creek. Yep.
Yeah, the Legend of Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
That scared the crap out of me.
Right, and for someone, I don't even know how old I was back then, 8, 9, 10, something to that effect, whatever it was. I kind of blew it off because I would never have thought of Bigfoot being here. But as you go down the line, years later, and you become a researcher, you find out that where I happen to be, where this camp is located in this specific area, happens to be one of the hotter spots for these cryptids, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, in the entire country. Pennsylvania's up there too, Ohio, and New York State. There's a ton of that stuff that goes on in this area. And I also researched, right next to this camp was a reservoir called Crystal Lake. And yes, it is the exact Crystal Lake they used in Friday the 13th. They wanted to build the property at one point. The owners said no, they thought it would be a bad thing. I'd go with P.T. Barnum. Any press is always good press. So, and they could have gotten new.
No such thing as bad press, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there were 2 sightings that same summer of a cryptid right by that lake, walking across the road, and one walking in the woods. So that looked like Bigfoot. So 2 + 2 is 4, and it is what it is. My daughter actually goes to that camp. It's a new camp now, and I know the owners very well. So we're going to be going up there, and we're going to be investigating. Not with my daughter. Once again, because it's become a hot spot. I know a couple of good Bigfoot investigators in that area that are fantastic. And that was really my start with cryptids. And I've always been interested in cryptids, like the Bigfoot cryptid along the line. I joined a group called the Bronxville Paranormal Society. It was started by my buddy Al Santoriga. And we were doing the ghost stuff. We were investigating UFOs, aliens, anything and everything that came up. And one day he calls me up, and he's been listening to these shows and this interview stuff about something called Dogman. And I'm like, what the heck's a Dogman? And, it's like, is that, what are you listening to? It's like cat videos. And I started listening to it, and I started listening with Vic Cundiff, who I think is probably one of the better experts in the field for both Bigfoot as well as the Dogman cryptid, which is basically a werewolf lichen or a hybrid between Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And I didn't want to believe this stuff is true, because you're talking about something that's basically a 12-foot werewolf like you see in the movie Van Helsing, right? It's like, you got to be... we got to draw a line someplace between, okay, this has got to be insane. But we started investigating some more stuff. People started coming to us. We sought out some people that have military backgrounds that cannot be revealed for fear. They're under a bigger contract and guide, than anybody else. I mean, they can go to jail for a long, long time, and they have nothing to gain from it. Right. And they're telling us stories about going on patrol around some bases in a variety of locations throughout the country and encountering these cryptids. Others going out, and their mission is to, when they hear something in an area, this cryptid makes its presence known. And usually it's not a pretty presence. The dogman itself, are more warrior type, and I don't know what you want to say, evil. It's just they're very aggressive.
Right.
And they're known to rip things and people to shreds, and they'll go to your house and mess with you. These units, I guess, I don't know if it's a full unit or not, because we haven't been able to get like a confirmation on this, but it seems that there's a select group of individuals within our military that are tasked with resolving this cryptid problem.
Did you by chance see a unit patch?
No, I never saw a patch. I have one of my closest friends. He's like a brother to me. Was in the military, retired from that. Works Govy. He's worked a lot of these alphabet companies, and we'll leave it at that. And I don't have clearance. He yells at me. He's like, "Oh God, I wish you had clearance," because and I wish I do too, because one, it's the information knowledge I'd love to, but it's also if you get a chance to help people, that's even better. But if I knew what the patch was, I could actually go to someone and and say, well, it had this on it and this, and do you ever hear of it? And you can tell when you're dealing with some of the other friends I have in government like that, it's their response. Some of them have a way of responding, which is like, I'm not confirming this, but I'm not denying it. So, it lends some credibility to it. And frankly, I have enough problems. I don't want any more government problems in my life. But
did you see these guys in New York?
No, I didn't see these guys in New York. We've met them. I met a couple in Pennsylvania. I met in some really weird places in Pennsylvania, like just go over the border. I'll be in this place, and it's very casual, and it's it's away from everybody else. It kind of feels like you're in a Jason Bourne movie. I've met people through third parties on video.
Right.
We'll contact you. You get contacted, and the fun stuff is when you go to look up. Like when we use Skype here, I can go look up who's making the call, and if I'm on a round table, I can see the other members of the call, and I have like a record of it, kind of thing.
Right.
When that stuff disappears from your phone, it's kind of weird.
It'd be so much easier if they were in New York, because that would have to be Fort Drum area.
Yeah, well,
and be 10th Mountain, more likely.
Yeah, I mean, it's also very interesting. Recently, my buddy was he's been stopped by a group that's coming off in New York State, and they said it's their DEP. And they know what he's doing, and they're basically threatened him. Don't go in the woods. These are our woods. You don't want to, you don't want to lose your pension. You don't want to be, so he got he got a bit scared. He's worked his butt off for his money, and so he's retired from this. Apparently, he told me they mentioned me, and I'm like, well, I haven't experienced it just yet, but I too know people that do things like this for a living. So I've informed them about that, and I have other people looking into things for me. It's not that I don't fear it. I don't want any problems. We all have enough problems on our own. I just want information. For myself. I have a billion questions, people. A billion questions about these cryptids, and I need answers.
Right.
And you know what? I too can keep a secret. So if you want to, let me know and say, well, now don't talk about it. I will not talk about it. It's something I'm very good at. I can do things very vague, and I can also shut up and just acknowledge, like, yep, I've heard that before, and we'll keep it simple.
Right.
So yeah, but I have one person that I've had a couple of conversations with. Kind of like I'll get a call, and the best is the number is 000-000-0000.
I've gotten calls like that.
Yeah, and I've gotten them too, and it's usually on a federal level, and and covert, and for reasons, and I'll get them every once in a while, and I won't blow those off. I'll just pick them up and get a chat, and I have somebody that says that eventually he wants to write something about it and come out, and if he does, he has no problems about talking to me about it, and we'll get him on our show, my show, and and we can still do it covertly where we're not revealing exactly everything about the person. But that day is yet to come. So here we all are, right? We're all investigating everything, and we really, people hear it like, oh, if they really knew somebody, I'm like, look, you can say whatever you want. I know what I've experienced. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I'm not selling anything to anybody. I just want answers,
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Brian,
we investigate everything.
So what's your definition of a cryptid? What?
It's a mystical. I'm going to say a mystical beast, something of lore and legend that shouldn't be there but is, and it includes not only. It's also non-scientific. There's no proof that it actually does exist technically in the scientific journals. So you can put your Bigfoot in there, Sasquatch, Yeti, or Wildman as they're called, Loch Ness Monster, sea serpents, unicorns, Pegasus dragons, and what are the Chupacabra, and a variety of the lizard man, Mothman, and even the Jersey Devil. It's something that you would not expect. You've heard legends about it in folklore. You've seen them on mermaids are in there too. You've seen them on those old navigational charts and maps, and they write some great stories about these creatures existing, these magical beasts. But some people are actually seeing them in present day.
Well, one of the things to remember that the mountain gorilla at one time was a cryptid. It wasn't until somebody finally brought a body back from the African highlands that it's like, oh, they really do exist. The platypus, the first one that was ever sent back to England, the curator at the Royal Museum was incensed. He threw it away and he wrote back to the naturalist, "How dare you waste my time with this taxidermist?"
Yeah.
So, science has missed it as often as they've gotten it. And I speak as a scientist, there tends to be a certain amount of arrogance in the field, and it's not until we're actually confronted with the overwhelming preponderance of evidence that, hey, this thing does exist, that we kind of have to, shuffle our feet and go, well, okay.
and then it's essentially taken off the cryptid list.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the giant squid would be in there too.
Oh yeah, Architeuthis was considered the only thing going for the giant squid is we knew that they existed by secondary evidence because they would see these huge sucker marks on harvested sperm whales, and they would they would say, well, based on this, my God, we're looking at an 80-foot squid.
Well, what about the megalodon?
Megalodon that's one of those that enough fishermen around the world have actually, fishermen make their living knowing what's in there, what's in their nets and what they're seeing, and a fisherman's not going to see a great white shark and think it's a megalodon. The reports that you have from some of these people, this damn thing's 80 foot long, could swallow a great white shark whole.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that bothers me about that is they know from the fossil record that megalodon preyed on whales, and we don't seem to find whale carcasses with bite marks that would...
Right.
They find the fossilized vertebrae in North Carolina at the DCS phosphate mine. They find these prehistoric whale vertebrae with megalodon teeth stuck in them. So we know what they ate.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I think we've done a pretty good job as human beings over the last hundreds of years, kind of killing our resources in the sea. I'm not Mr. Naturalist, so I'm not going to preach to anybody. It is what it is.
It's been overfished, yeah.
Right, overfished, overwhelmed, and what have you. So there are some recent images of like sharks coming up missing half their bodies.
Yeah.
People have caught, we're talking a great white shark, and something is taking half of its body off. So that's kind of interesting. So maybe they have moved to another food source. In general, I think a lot of these do exist, and we have trenches that are so vast and deep throughout the oceans that they could just be hiding down there and just living large in their little world. They don't need to come to the surface. We know we've captured some of the giant squids and octopus on cameras in some of the deep sea areas there. They're massive in size, and they're very intelligent. One of my favorite cryptid is actually the octopus, because if you look at this creature, it can change its physical form, its color, its texture to whatever it wants, whenever it wants. It's insane.
I used to like eating octopus as I did an article some years ago about them, and I don't eat creatures that can problem solve.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, if you look at each tentacle on a octopus has a brain in it. They can. It's apparent that they can do abstract thinking. Probably the only reason they haven't evolved to be a dominant species is their very short lifespan. The male dies shortly after breeding, and the female lives just long enough to keep, to get her eggs to hatch, and then she dies.
Ain't that the truth? Huh?
There's no passing on of generational knowledge. If these things could actually teach their young, my God, they'd probably be the dominant species in the water at least.
Well, I trained in school. I was originally going to be I was thinking about physicist and astrophysicist, going into physics as well. And then I realized, hey, there's no money in this. So I have to pick something different. So I went more business related, but I always kept the sciences going. And something that's very interesting, I always try to put that, I'm not a per se scientist, but I like to try to put like more scientific methods in when we do research. I want to try to do certain experiments and then, have the hypothesis on these things, always keep those out there. But if we look at the octopus, I forgot who it was, but there's several different scientists that really studied these species, and they say straight up, there is no reason why this species should be on this planet. It's like it doesn't belong. It's not from here. They can't kind of trace its lineage to anything. So, then I look to the Simpsons and I see their aliens that come in that are the octopus. I mean, they very well could be a foreign or an alien species. And, a recon group that goes out there, and maybe there is a collective or a hive mentality that we're unaware of at this point. But yeah, man, they are super smart.
They had that one. I think it was right here in Seattle. They kept missing fish out of this one tank, and they were like, "What the hell?" And they left a camera going. After the lights went out, the cockroaches would come out. This friggin' octopus would snatch a cockroach, then reach over into the adjacent tank where the fish were over, and it would use the cockroach as bait to get one of those fish within reach, and then bang, he'd grab the fish and eat it in his tank.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, that's
smart, right?
That's problem solving. That's a strategy-based problem-solving solution, and I think they border on being sentient. If not, I think they are actually.
Well, I think there was another one another story I heard about. I don't know where it was, but I know it was within the country that the researcher was also noticing the fish and the octopus tank was well away from the fish tanks, and he'd go lock up the door, shut the lights off, lock the door, and he'd leave, and the next day they noticed fish missing. They also noticed water on the floor, and like, okay, what the heck's going on here? So one time he went out and he was getting ready to go, and he closed the lights. He locked the door, but he stood there and he watched through the little, I guess, window that they had in there, and he watched the octopus climb out of the tank, scurry along the floor, go climb into the tank, take the fish, come back out, and he was just floored by it. I can't express how intelligent they are. I mean, dolphins are the same way too, which is very interesting.
Right.
There's some research that the dolphins have been blowing. We've tried to test their intelligence, and we know that they're self-aware. We know that they recognize themselves. If you set up a video camera with a screen, they know that what they're looking at on the screen is themselves. And they think maybe they've been blowing the intelligence test just it's like, God, don't let these idiots know how smart we are. We'll never get out of this tank.
We're stupid. We're stupid.
But you have these creatures all over the place that are technically cryptids. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. Then again, humans always think that they're the smartest animal in the room when we're not. There's tons of them that are, a lot smarter.
I don't know how old you are. I'm 57, and I remember in 6th grade getting in this hellacious argument with the teacher because I said animals were intelligent and could think.
Yep.
Oh, no, that's just instinct. I said, no, the cat doesn't know where the catnip is and open the drawer and then dig into the container to get the catnip on instinct.
Right.
I mean, there's too many steps along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually got paddled over that one because I stood my ground.
I'm a little bit younger than you, but I skipped the paddling phase. I think I just skirted it. But yeah, I never really got into the arguments with people or teachers or there was a time when kids respected adults, unlike today. But
Right.
I've always been thinking of things, I guess, outside the box. I think of inside and outside the box. I've always looked to the stars and know that there's more to this than we're being told. I've thought long before Ancient Aliens was on. I've always proposed that aliens and angels may be one and the same. These are the curiosities, and having a scientific background in mind, I'm always looking for answers. And it's funny because every time we get close to something, and for the longest time, I've heard stories about Bigfoot using mental telepathy to communicate with people, and I just said, okay, I never disrespected anybody. I said, I know that they believe what they believe, but I think they've got the six-pack, but they're missing the plastic thingy to hold it together, Until about 2015, when we did a day-night investigation out. There's a lake up in New York State, and it's known for high strangeness. It borders the Appalachian Trail, and we went out on Halloween night, 2015. We did a day-night investigation. To get to the lake, you have to walk about a mile to get up to the point of the lake. And what's interesting is there was a company called United Nuclear Corporation that got permission from the U.S. government military to use weapons-grade material, plutonium, uranium, to create some kind of engine. And they never went further than that. But there was an accident.
Is that Bob Lazar's United Nuclear? Is that the Bob Lazar company?
I don't. It could very well have been Bob Lazar part of that.
Okay.
But they're all over. I mean, they're responsible for a lot of nuclear
It
stuff,
might be
military-wise. Right. This was back in, I want to say the 70s. And they had an accident there. And they contaminated the lake. And the government, and I'm putting this in quote, cleaned it up. They didn't really do it. But there's always been high strangeness in the area. Native indigenous peoples have talked about strange encounters there, and cryptids and Bigfoot and Sasquatch and that type of stuff. So we just said, you know what, we're going to do an investigation there. And so we hiked into where the lake started. We went around the lake, about 2 miles around the lake to get to the top of the lake. And over there, we set up camp. And it was very odd. We were getting some strange sounds on... there was 3 people there. There was my buddy Al, myself, and this other guy, Bill, who has his own YouTube channel show. And he was kind of videotaping there. He wanted to experience some stuff. So while we were there, we were doing some experiments. We both had crystal skulls. We put them out there. We did your typical base readings for EMF, magnets, radiation, heat, and heat signatures and everything. We weren't getting anything. And then we started to put his skull and my skull together. And we started, it was a beautiful day, beautiful night. They picked up some stuff on a parabolic mic, but that could have been radiation. It was pretty high up in the trees, but, as you pointed it up higher, you got more of this, almost like a Morse code type of thing. And I said to him, I said, well, if you calculate when this disaster happened and what these trees were like back then, it probably would be up higher where the radiation would be kicking, and maybe we're picking that up. But what we did was we started using something called Tibetan singing bowls. Mm-hmm. And so we started ramping. We started with, I had about 9 different singing bowl tones on there, from large to small, and we just kept ramping it up. And we had a real singing bowl. We kept doing it and doing it. And as we did it, you could literally feel the pressure, and it just started getting more pressurized and intense in the area. It was crazy. And when about an hour and a half in, we retested where the skulls were and where the rock was. And now we're getting heat readings. We're getting EMF readings that are off the charts. We decided to call our psychic. Now, the psychic for our group lives in Arkansas. Okay. And when she was on the phone, it sounded as if she had Bell's palsy. She couldn't speak for the life of her. And it was just crazy. So we kind of cut that off, and we just kept continuing to do our thing. We stood our ground. We're hanging out there. And at one point, my buddy, we started hearing tree knocks and rock knocks from across the way from where the pond is, from where we were. And it was getting pitch black. And we heard this, if you're looking at us where we're sitting there, so my buddy Al would be in the middle, and I'm about 12 feet away from to the right is my chair, and the 12 feet to the left of Al, to the left of that view, is Bill's chair. And Al's listening with the parabolic microphone, and you could actually feel the ground moving, but we heard something creeping in, walking. Now, I don't have a gun. I live in New York City. I don't have any type of firearm. It's too much of a pain to get to. And also, where we were was borderline federal land. So you get caught in the federal lands with a firearm, I think it's a mandatory year. It's not a joke. So I didn't want to play that game whatsoever. But at this point, we're hearing these creeping sounds. And the next thing you know, there's a bluff charge behind this guy, Bill. And Bill gets up and he runs. And my buddy grabs him, and we said, stand your ground, and we stood our ground. And, I had a machete. That came out, and we did a triangle there. Bill was scared out of his mind at this point. You could feel his heart racing from away from him.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, cool. And then we went back. We looked with, we had infrared, we had FLIR. We had all these different types of cameras, lighting. Nothing was there. Couple minutes later, we hear a rock knock across the way on the other side of the lake where we are at the tip. And the next thing you know, you hear, as if it was right next to us, whoop, whoop, and then another whoop, a third whoop that was about 2 miles away from us, down. And it was at that point, which I personally think it was a Sasquatch that was telling the party across the lake that was signaling with a rock. There's 3 of them, which there was. Stay where you are or go a different route.
Right.
So we were a little bit on edge. It was pretty intense, but when that moment came, and it went whoop whoop in front of us, no more than 10 feet, and we couldn't see a thing. We turned the lights on, nothing. We even ran up to the hill where we felt it came from. But for it to go from point A to point B at 2 miles down the road, there's not many ways you can do that, especially on that side of the lake where it was is all goat trails. So the thought of Bigfoot possibly being interdimensional at this point as a cryptid definitely took hold in my mind.
There seems to be a lot of evidence that points to that. I mean, there's
yes.
How many eyewitnesses say, "Oh, I shot this thing point blank"? I panic shot. You know, I couldn't have missed. I was right in front of it. Full, double barrel shotgun to the chest. And there's no blood, no body, no evidence that this happened.
Yeah, I know.
And
absolutely.
it's pretty crazy, right? You don't want to believe this. But we don't have the mindset to believe that this can be interdimensional. And something that's very important, and going back to science, is if in the near future, very, very close, we're talking within a year, 2 years, there's so many advancements coming out of the quantum mechanics field, the quantum physics, that will explain every ounce of this to a T. It will validate all of this. Because they are literally doing what is doable now in quantum mechanics, talking about transporting material from point A to point B. There's no difference. There's other creatures that can do this.
Well, we personally heard wood knock here, and it's not that random bang crap. I mean, there was rhythm and structure to it.
Yeah.
It was obviously a communication. It wasn't just random hitting a log. I mean, it just struck me that there's structure to this. It's not a limb falling out of a tree. It's not a chaotic. It's a structured signal.
Yeah, and your jaw was hitting the ground.
Yeah, because it's like, did you hear that? Yeah, it was my first Pacific Northwest, I would say, Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah.
If he is sitting, like if he is interdimensional and you just hit him point blank with a shotgun in the chest, he's probably sitting in that other dimension like that prick.
Well, there was a very good. I heard this one time. This kid got dropped off to go hunting, and his mom came back to pick him up later, and he was in shock. And said, "Mom, take me to the police. Take me to the sheriff." And the kid went in and said, he thought he had shot somebody.
Right.
And he was, mortified. It was a panic fire situation. Well, they do search and rescue, and they search the area. No trace of blood, and he knows he couldn't have missed. He knows he didn't miss because of the proximity.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, we knew that this creature was there. We weren't able to see anything. Something of interest after that happened and it dispersed. I guess it got pissed off at us. And the last encounter with it, he threw a boulder that hit the ground behind my chair, rolled 2 or 3 times, and knocked my ass out. So, but after that, the pressure that was there, the environment, and I think these creatures use infrasound to explosion. God bless you. See, I've seen the truth right there.
Yeah.
That disappeared. And it wasn't a few minutes later from that encounter that we decided to go to the next next location we're going to go to. And as we're walking to this next location, it's we're at the top end of this lake that's filled with nuclear material. And beautiful sky. And I'm looking there, all three of us, and I see this orangish object that's going from right to left. It looks like an old, if you've seen an old helicopter headlight, more yellowish orange, and it's moving from right to left. And without missing a beat, I went and I said, "What is that?" And I pointed to it, and it stopped. And this craft started coming to us. Mm-hmm. So, so I was smart enough not to put my camera away. It hovered about 20 yards above us. It shot us with literally a beam of light. We did a time check at that point. It was 9:15. This video of my video of this craft is on YouTube under Bronxville Paranormal Society, and you can hear 9:15, and we're looking at it. It's not making a sound. A little bit of a sound, but like electronics, and it wasn't more than 10 minutes from that spot to the next location, and it kind of disappeared or went away, and we went to the next location. We set up. We did a little investigating there, and my buddy said, let's call our psychic back. Give me a time check. And it should have been no more than like 10:15. It was 10 to 12. So in that encounter, we missed 2 hours on that. So you were talking your UFOs earlier. We don't know what happened, and I don't want to know what happened at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Who is your favorite cryptid and why?
My favorite cryptid.
Mm-hmm.
I still have this thing for Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. And the reason why is I like the fact that these things seem to tend to be very family, clan oriented. They look out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're aggressive when they need to be. And from investigation, they seem to have this affinity for humans as a species or a being. They've, in the past, have protected humans from other cryptids like the dogmen. And they seem to be, as the Native Americans would say, they're the watchers of the forest. I don't know. It seems to be there's a connection there. I can't really fully put my finger on it, but I really do thoroughly enjoy them. A cryptid that I'd love to actually, hopefully, get a chance to see it, and if it existed, I'd love to see something like along the lines of a Pegasus or a unicorn, which that would be like super cool. And there are reports of those, but again, the rational side of my investigations are like, there's no way these things are real.
I would say if they're in another dimension, you're not going to see them if they're dimensional.
Right.
Just like dragons. Dragons are in the ninth dimension. They do exist.
Yes.
Now, you can go find a water horse, but just do not touch it.
Right. No, it'll drag you into it'll drown you. The water.
Yes.
It's part of the Fae.
Absolutely.
It's part of the Fae realm.
See? They're all mean.
Huh?
They're all mean.
No, they're not. Not all. They're not all mean. So, what's been your most unnerving experience in this field?
Well, we were doing. There's a place in New York State called Letchworth Village. I think the group from Ghost Adventures went there one time, and it's a 28,000 acre facility that was used for people with I'm going to use the term mental retardation or mental defects and physical defects, bastard children, unwanted people, and that's what the facility was used for. Actually, I believe, if I'm correct, polio, the vaccine, was pretty much created there. It was tested, and it was tested on everything and everyone, especially little children. And the way they tested it was, if they didn't die, it was a candidate. And there's a lot of dead children and people from this facility that have to be buried on the property in unmarked graves. So we found this gravesite area, and it's well off from where the property is. And we decided to do an investigation there. So we drove up to it. Now, when you go to this, unless you lived in this little area where it is, you'd never know there was a cemetery there.
Right.
But we parked on the road. We went in and we drove into we parked to the side of this place. It's a couple of houses on there, maybe 4 or 5. And we park the car, we go in, and as you walk down this pathway, you get to this big stone. They finally put a stone up, and they listed as many bodies or people that were buried there. So we put our camp behind the stone and my rationale was, nothing's going to really sneak up on us. We'll have our backs to something and some kind of protection if something happens. So we set up there, and we started investigating, doing your typical EVPs, walking around, videotaping. And then some part of that area there, you would hear these. My buddy Al is very big with the dogman type of cryptid. And I wasn't focusing on dogmen or anything except for, spirits and communicating that way. But he kept on hearing some very weird. He said, "Do you hear that? You hear that?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounds like a dog barking, a big dog." I wasn't really thinking dogman at the time. Not at all. And where this cemetery is, of course, to make it even creepier, it has the power line area that goes through a certain section of it, which I really think cryptids like dogmen and Bigfoot use as their own personal highway to travel when they, they migrate from point A to point B. So we said, okay, this is interesting. We're looking around for tracks, nothing. But at one point, we actually saw a break in the trees, and it looked like a pretty fresh break that was, significantly high up, at least 10 feet high up, fresh break. And there's no other trees that were in the area that would have broken it. So we're doing our investigation, and something of interest. We have the EMF meter out, and nothing's happening. So we go and we start using the Tibetan singing bowls, which seem to be the charm that we need. We run those through, and the next thing you know, we're getting hits on the EMF, and we're asking whatever spirits there, can you make it go to 66, and can you make it go down to 65? And it's obliging us at this one point, and we're trying to ask some questions of it, and then for some reason my buddy got into this. We felt like Bigfoot could be in the area. I don't know how to describe it, as there's a gut feeling you get when you're in certain places. It has certain characteristics and qualities that would lend for these creatures to be there. And there's a couple of dogs barking in the area in the background. My buddy takes out the stick and he does a tree knock. And in an instant, everything goes quiet. It just stops. So that's very interesting as an investigator, but it also is a tad bit unnerving, because you're like, okay, what do these creatures know that we don't? Maybe there is a Bigfoot in the area. Well, we're going. We leave there for a bit. We go get something. We come back. It's kind of chilly. And when we come back into the area, a few minutes, we're sitting there getting set up. We see these two kids on a quad runner. They're coming flying in, like out of nowhere, and they're like, I don't know where they went. We were looking for them, whatever. So my buddy Al and I said, maybe we should stop and see what the heck this is all about. So we stopped. We stopped them, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, we're paranormal investigators. We're investigating." And I said, he replied it back to, I guess, on a two-way radio to someone else. And said, "Yeah, they're investigators. They're investigating, whatever." So they took off pretty quick. As fast as they got in, they seemed to be on a mission, and they seemed like they didn't want to stay in that area for a while. So okay, whatever. What's that? So I said to Al, I said, "Look, if we get these guys to come back, maybe we can ask them about the area, because we weren't going to go knocking on doors for people. I probably wouldn't have opened up a door if someone that didn't live in the area came up to it." Right. So we're there for a little bit longer, and again, these guys come flying in. They're gone. We can't find them because we can hear them, but they're not looking behind the stone. And we stop them again. And we're like, "Hey, can we interview you?" And they're like, No, we got to get out of here. And they get out. Which I've always made a mental note of. I'm like, why they're in and out so quick? What do they know? We don't know. Long story short, we keep hearing these different things. Al keeps talking about, if you hear that growl, you hear the growl. And I didn't hear it at the time, frankly. We did come across tree structures. And basically, somebody or something took a huge tree, probably about a 3-foot diameter, ripped it out by the roots, flipped it upside down, and hung it up, almost like an umbrella, and had other trees in that direction hung around it. And from past research, we know that Bigfoot does they make tree structures in the area. They'll do X's, they'll do bends, they'll do it on the floor. Right. But it kind of blends into the landscape. We also know that Dogman likes to do that too. And Dogman is not shy about letting you know it's their property. And they're usually the ones that flip up, take trees out of the ground, physically pull them up and flip them up with roots in the air and stuff. So that was very interesting. But again, we didn't see anything other than that would say, hey, there's a Dogman here. And as the night kind of went on, we're in a cemetery, mind you. A full moon. For some reason, it's as if they cued it on a movie. We're sitting there, and my buddy's acting a little strange and weird. He has this look on his face, and I'm like, dude, what's going on with you? Like, nothing. I'm fine. I'm like, nah, something's not right here. There's a fog that rolls in, which I've never seen that before, except in your classic horror film, And I'm like, oh, this is getting good. And after a while, we just kind of got this feeling like, it was time to go. It was about 11 o'clock at night. So we packed our stuff up and got hoofing out, and we started hoofing out. And his car was about a quarter mile away from us on the opposite side of the road. We parked in an area that has like a little path. It looks like people use it for exercising, like, making hikes in the woods. And I had to pee. I'll be the first and foremost to tell you that. I had to urinate, and I wasn't going to do it in a cemetery. I just disrespectful.
No, right.
Right. So as we're walking there, we can see the eye shine of something, and it's like there's something over there. And we're thinking, probably a deer or something. And we get walking further and further closer to it. I'm in the passenger side, and my buddy's there, and there's this very large, what looks like a canine in shadow, but you can see the eyes shine. And I'm standing on a 3-foot grade, okay? I'm 6'1". So that makes me about 9 feet 1, okay? This creature that's about 20 yards away from us is sitting down, like a dog would say. You can see the pointy ears. And its head is almost in line with my head. So we made very good note of this. It wasn't unnerving just yet. So I said, you know what, we're going to get our stuff in the car. I start peeing in front of it. Now, if anybody knows anything about dogs or animals...
Oh, you were marking your territory.
Oh, I was being the alpha.
You're being the alpha.
And, yeah, you know what, looking back, it was a tad bit crazy of me to do it. But this thing just sat there. It didn't move whatsoever. And my buddy Al was like, dude, get in the car, Brian, get in the car. He was getting nervous. I said, we're fine. And we're watching this thing. And the next, I'm getting my stuff in, peeing, get my stuff in. The next thing I know, this thing starts going down. Like it's and then it disappears. And in an instant.
That's when it gets scary.
Yep. That was the scariest point of my Bigfoot and cryptid research. The goose flesh just comes right up. And I just get this feeling in the back of my neck, it is time to leave. And that's what we did. We got in the car, and as we were discussing it, we said, we were like, what the hell happened? I said, my buddy goes, I think he was getting ready to make his presence known because you decided to pee in front of him.
Because, a pissing contest.
Yeah, you're pissing in front of a dog man. So it could have ended really, really bad. It could have ended super bad for me, but I definitely felt that was probably the creepiest, most unnerving moment of my investigative career. Don't get me wrong, when we had the boulder and the woots in the middle of the night in the black moment, I mean, it became a depends moment, but I didn't really fear for my person, my life like that. I did start to fear a little bit because these creatures, dogmen, they're very aggressive. They are just... I've never heard any real story of these things like not wanting to rip the shreds out of people.
Right.
From the land between the lakes until there's other ones where someone takes a shot at it and they track them down and they rip them to shreds, like hundreds of miles away.
I'm very skeptical about the land between the lakes thing. Because when I was in college, that was my home away from home. And I mean, I didn't just go to Rushing Creek or Hillman Ferry. I had a little 4-wheel drive Bronco too. I made my own campgrounds. Like, that's one of those places where if you can get there, you can camp.
Right.
And I covered a lot of that area. And I mean, I'd stay out there for days at a time. I never had any kind of encounter like that. It wasn't until the Dogman story kind of got out there and got popularized that now all of a sudden we've got Dogman and Land Between the Lakes. I don't believe it. I really don't. I never got that vibe. I never And like I said, I literally would live out there days at a time. Around if it it sounds arrogant to say, but I think if there'd been something like that, I'd either heard it, I'd have had some kind of encounter, and I just never did.
Did you when you camped? May I ask if you brought firearms or some kind of weapon with you?
Actually, back
specifically
then,
machetes.
What did I have? I think I had my hatchet for firewood.
Right. Okay.
No, I don't think not sure. I don't think I even had a firearm at the time. This is when I was in college in the 90s. And after I graduated in late 90s.
So someone, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a really great guy, and you should get him on your show, Butch Witowski.
Oh yeah, we've had him.
Yeah, Butch is freaking fantastic. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. He's a real great guy, but he's had a couple of encounters, and he was talking about they had a dogman situation, and someone knew about it, and they contacted. They were Native. I'm going to say Native American to make it easier, and they had the elders contact, I believe it was Butch, about this case going on there. They told him that they prayed for him. They gave him a special necklace and pouch, and they said when you go out there, don't bring any firearms with you. They don't respect the firearms. You need to bring a long blade.
Right.
And I tell that to everybody as well. Unless you're in a military unit, and you have special rounds, we'll say.
Yeah, Mark that
Very
to work
special
with.
rounds, unlimited special rounds. Most of these encounters where someone goes and takes a pot shot at this cryptid, they wind up dead. However, the machete, I think they respect it because even though bullets can penetrate, machetes and long blades can slice you open, no matter how thick your meat is. So if you were shooting at a moose, it's known that if you shoot a moose straight on, there's so much skin to leathery type of layers of skin on a moose that bullets will just get stuck in there. They're not going to do anything. But if you took a knife to the moose, it would cut the thing right in half. So I think what happened in the land between the lakes was I think something did happen. I don't know if it is a dogman per se, but when you find out, and you see, and you hear that this RV or whatever they were in, it was ripped to shreds and body parts everywhere, and they find, the youngest, this little girl, mutilated and almost skinned in a tree. I don't know what other things can do that. I mean, I know cats will take their food up in a tree,
Right.
but this was more than just a cat. So, did someone concoct that story, or was it real? And in the case between you and these people in general, maybe someone had a gun there and took a couple shots at this thing and pissed it off.
Well, one of the things about that, you would think that there would have been more eyewitness accounts before it became popularized, for the simple fact that's a huge turkey hunting. Turkey season, and you walk by a stump in the woods, and it's probably a damn turkey hunter.
All right, with that, we need to take our first break.
Sure.
When we come back, we will continue with cryptids.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Break. You're going down.
host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4 as we talk about all things cryptid for our second to the last show of this 24-hour marathon. 5 more hours and we can go to sleep. Brian, have you ever heard anything new? We got Mothman from the Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And then, in the last few years, we've heard Mothman reporting in Chicago.
Yes.
What do you think those are? Do you think they're the same Mothman from Point Pleasant, or is it a similar cryptid, or what's your thoughts on it?
Well, it's funny you're saying this. I did film for another series that's on right now. Actually, the episode I'm filming for is the Jersey Devil episode of Into the Unknown with Cliff Simon, which is on tomorrow on Travel Channel from Eastern Time, 11 to 12. So I don't know what it is on the West Coast or Central. And one of the things bringing out there, I've investigated the Jersey Devil, and there's a lot of similarities to the Jersey Devil, to the Mothman at Point Pleasant, and to what's being seen right now in Chicago, and a lot of it's being seen in Chicago right now. Also in that area, there's Goatman, I believe it is, and
all right, we'll get to Goatman next.
Yeah, that's a Kentucky thing.
Goatman's very interesting as well, but I think these creatures are real. There's a lot of talk about, we were just talking about when a certain industry goes away from an area in order to bring the tourists in. You concoct some kind of story or legend or lore. It does work at a certain point, but most of them are proven false, and people move on. It's a short-lived type of economic revival because of that. Mothman itself has prospered for years, and people have been going to that for a long, long time. Actually, it's going to be probably brought back a lot more now because of the Hellier series. If you watch it on Amazon Prime with the Newkirks, and one of our buddies, Tyler Strand's in there. We met Tyler. We were the first person to interview Tyler at a long time. And it's funny, they're chasing goblins, but it's leaning towards the Mothman legacy and legend. And funny, talking about coincidences, which I don't believe there are. It's more synchronicity. The name of our program that I do with Ron Murphy, who's the Cryptid Guru, get him on the show, please. Ron's great. Is called Inside the Goblin Universe. So I want to point that out to Greg and Dana and Tyler if they want to pay attention to that. But I do think this creature, I think it's not a creepypasta type of situation where they make things up like Slender Man, legend and lore. And although there's rake sightings too, we can get into that. There's a lot more rake sightings lately. But I do believe this creature is real, and I do believe the creature has a purpose. And it's not to warn you that a bridge is going to go out. Oh no,
absolutely.
Right. It's there's something else. It's almost as if I don't want to get too biblical, but it almost is a precursor before something that's not good is going to happen, and not really,
a harbinger.
I don't know exactly.
An ill omen.
Yeah.
So more like a banshee.
It could be a banshee, but a banshee would go after you in theory and in practice. They talk about the banshees going after people over there in Ireland, and they're very aggressive. This doesn't seem as aggressive. It seems to be like, I always get this image of Batman.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna break in for a second.
Sure.
Banshees are not an aggressive creature.
No, banshees are actually harbingers. They're messengers and they're usually connected to families, specific families, and we just covered banshees in the last show, but they are merely a warning that somebody in the family is going to die. I've honestly never heard of an aggressive banshee. They're part of the Fey realm.
With the Jersey Devil, do you think the Jersey Devil that's seen now is the original, the supposedly deformed child of Mother, I can't remember her name.
Mother Leeds.
Mother Leeds.
The demonic child of Mother Leeds? No, I do not. What I do think took place in that area is they are actually, I'm going to go with a dogman, like a werewolf type of, or the Mothman Dogman thing, which is a flying cryptid
like
that has revealed itself. Yeah, I think more, when you're eating rye seeds and you're drinking a lot of mead, the fantasy can come to, people can expand on that. I think there was a lot more to the legend based on the individuals in a fight between, I kind of lean more towards the fight between what was going on with Benjamin Franklin and his almanac versus the Leeds almanac or theory there. And when you get into a religious community that the Leeds were part of, everything's the devil. It doesn't matter what it is. If it feels good, it's the devil.
Yeah.
So, but I think there was an actual creature that's there. I think people are seeing an actual creature, and more of the descriptions of the more recent views of this creature don't really have. They have the wings on it, but it doesn't have the shape of a horse. The head of a horse and all this other stuff that's going on there.
So it's morphed into a different creature.
I think you're really talking about almost like Dogman-esque, like a werewolf-esque type of creature. Not a transformer. I'm not talking about your typical Lon Chaney Jr. werewolf. I don't believe those exist whatsoever. This is not a transforming creature. This is something that's coming in interdimensionally. It lives in the area. It's very aggressive, and it just comes and goes. It does what it needs to do, and then it leaves. And I think it has different areas that it hunts in, just like anybody else would have an area to hunt in. I don't really subscribe to the Leeds, the Leeds legend. Now, there was a group out of in southern Jersey a few years back, led by this. There was a woman that was the leader of the group. I forgot the name of it. It's not on my tongue right now. And they went and they did an investigation on that whole thing was about, for them, the Jersey Devil. And they videotaped. And in the videotape, you can clearly hear a growl, like a very aggressive growl. They had an encounter. And after that night, this person would not talk about the cryptid anymore, gave up searching for it. Everybody involved in it just stopped doing what they were doing.
Doesn't that piss you off, though, when an investigating group like that, they finally get some evidence, or they have the encounter,
right?
And they just, it scares it. They run from it.
Well, it's funny. They all had firearms. They were carrying firearms when they go on an investigation. Now, something has to be that kind of powerful to say, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And it could be a moment where your life was spared for a split second or a moment or two. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why they stopped doing what they're doing. But yeah, it does piss me off because you're so close. Like, come on. I've actually reached out to this person several times and they've just ignored me. They don't want to talk about it. But you come up against something that horrifying, that life-threatening. It really can change your life. We do have these moments in life where it's like, okay, I've had enough. I'm done.
As a cryptid hunter or a cryptozoologist, or
right.
have you ever heard of the Dewey Lake Monster from Michigan?
I don't. You know what? I don't know of it as that name, but I've heard of a lake monster in Michigan. Yes.
Okay. Look, do yourself a favor and look into that, because this is something that made international news. It wasn't just a local phenomenon, and I grew up in the town where it occurred. Think I might have encountered it and had a suppressed memory, but look into the Dewey Lake Monster. That was there's police records, there's newspaper records. This thing was this is probably as well publicized as any cryptid encounter that ever happened.
I got my research going right now.
Yeah.
I always keep things on. I have yet to get over to Loch Ness. My buddy Ron has been there a couple of times, but I believe that there's a lot of these monsters available, and it's not just as some propose a what do they call it? An eel. I don't think it's an eel.
I don't think it's a plesiosaur either, but...
Or an elephant's trunk, for that matter.
No, one of the things about the whole idea of Loch Ness is very cold water, and if it's a plesiosaur, and if what paleontologists think they know about the creature, it was cold-blooded, and it wouldn't be... I just don't think it's a remnant plesiosaur.
Well,
but there's something. I do believe there's something out there. I mean, there was that big research push in the 70s, and they got a picture of a flipper.
Yep.
And a picture of it almost looks like a giraffe head.
Yeah.
Looking in the camera. So they've used side scan sonar, and they've gotten some major large creature moving underwater.
Right.
They won't come out and say we got Nessie on sonar, but they just a large aquatic target moving.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's a couple of these things that are where we have real quality eyewitness sightings. Plenty of people have seen things, but I think the reporting is suspect.
Right.
Because again, like we said before, there's money involved in this, right? There's a lot of money involved in cryptids.
Right.
And one of when I look at Loch Ness, my theory going into the science end of it, I feel that it's a very deep loch, extremely deep, and I think that I think what's taking place in Loch Ness and across the board to the left and the right of these type of sea creatures, we may be experiencing the same creature in these areas. And I believe that there may be a giant fissure or like a trench, like the Mariana Trench, where this thing escapes through, and it pops up in different regions. I think that's very plausible if something is lived. Now, you have to understand something, that when you get into hyperstasis, like when you get into something that's frozen, yes, I mean, humans, there's always the story about the boy or girl that goes into thin ice. They're frozen for like 4 hours, they come back and they're alive. I do believe that is a plausible explanation for a creature coming from way back when and still being alive. There's plenty of fish in the sea. They get plenty of animals that normally shouldn't be in the loch, like sharks and seals, and so there is a food source there. They don't necessarily have to come on shore.
One of the things, though, if it's a reptile, reptiles are air breathers. And if this thing is I would think if it was a remnant of some kind of prehistoric reptile, you would get more sightings because it's got to come up to get a breath of air.
100%. But
here's the deal with it. So they just found a dragon, a physical body dragon in Romania in 2017.
Mm-hmm. If we go with the dragon theory that Nessie would be a water dragon, we honestly don't know enough about that line of creature to actually say whether she would be picked up on sonar.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's like saying Bigfoot would be picked up on radar. We have no freaking idea.
So, you go with the two trains of thought, dinosaur possibly, but what if it is dragon?
Or it just completely, as most cryptids are, a completely new animal
and that's
to
possible
science.
Too.
You've got maybe it's an amphibian, like the hellbender, huge cold water salamander.
Yep.
And they actually they've got a very wrinkly appearance, and that increases the surface area of their skin and allows them to absorb oxygen straight from the water. So could this thing be like a weird something along the lineage of the Hellbender salamander.
Well, and like what I would wonder is like when we talked about the dragons, we talked about the 2 sacks. What were they filled with? Methane and
methane and
hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right,
you would think that when they adapted to a water creature, those 2 sacks would underwater. It's not going to breathe fire.
No.
So
those 2 sacks have become something.
Swim bladders.
Swim bladders for buoyancy and for longer breaths before, and yeah.
But it could be possible that much methane or even hydrogen in the water could itself mess up sonar.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Especially the methane.
Possibly.
Yeah, and they found some other type of dragon in, I believe, in China recently.
Forest dragon.
Yeah, it's more of not the serpent type, but more of like the flying type of dragon. Here's the thing with this is where science gets a little bit screwy, and anybody that's had some hairs or samples taken, if there is a connection to humans or there's an offshoot of the human DNA in these Sasquatch Bigfoots, let's just say, of course the human DNA is going to pop in, okay? And these research tests and DNA testing is not foolproof. As you know, I'm always suspect on these tests because even carbon dating has gone under some scrutiny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have always said that if I ever found genuine Bigfoot fur, hair, whatever you want to call it,
right,
that I would save enough for my own samples, but I would totally send one of the samples in to one of those Ancestry.coms, like 23andMe.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to freak them out. Just be like, what is this?
I'm Bigfoot. And that's the hard part with this field. Where, science is great, and it would be great to get all this in science. But when you're talking about Bigfoot, and I firmly believe, and have for many years, that Bigfoot's been interdimensional. That's always been my theory. I don't believe in the Gigantopithecus, or he's an ape. I don't.
Right.
No, he's interdimensional.
I think it's an offshoot of humanity.
No.
I do.
No.
I don't think...
It's okay. Here's my thing. When we're talking interdimensional creatures, it's hard to get that on science.
Right.
But from a scientific point of view, there were several different offshoots of humanity that went extinct. Who's to say... until we actually get a hold of one and can do some kind of genetic testing.
What if you're both correct?
He's interdimensional.
But what if you're both
correct? That doesn't mean being interdimensional. But being interdimensional doesn't rule out being a human, something along the human lineage.
You have to admit that's true. He could have developed interdimensional.
Right.
And that as actually, like, what if he's the one part of the Homo sapien line that actually did develop interdimensional travel, and that is what makes him him.
Yeah,
they
instead of being tool users like Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, this creature developed more of a mental tools instead of physical tools. And
maybe that's why he's hairy.
So
he needs to be for the other dimension.
Here's your other problem, Michael. So Michael's been in the chat room. He's been trying to get his question in for about 20 minutes now. Is Bigfoot detectable 800 meters? That you know
detectable
of.
How again?
At 800 meters. So he's trying to figure out what kind of camera to get to get a video footage of Bigfoot without being detected.
There is a FLIR camera that reaches 800 meters. It's called the Leonardo.
Right. And it's about $46,000 because I looked into. That's
That's
why I bought the FLIR Scout.
But the thing is, like at 800 meters in a forest,
you're not going to see.
You won't see any animal.
You need a FLIR. You need a very strong FLIR.
Even that, you've got too much interference.
But at 800 meters, you're going to see so many trees in front of him that you're not actually going to see him.
Maybe.
I don't think the heat signature And I almost wonder if the fur doesn't help hide the heat signature. Like an insulating, too. Like
that's why we need a drone.
Makes it look more like it blends in with the trees and the ambient temperature because it's got that.
Or he doesn't have a Hertz heat signature.
And that's why we need a drone with FLIR.
Well,
how do we know something that interdimensional has a heat signature?
Well, something I proposed a long time ago. I was trying to.
It has so many other mammalian characteristics, though.
Okay.
Was the
it would be warm-blooded.
That away.
We're missing out on something here, big time, and this is where I think the film that was used for the patty was very important, and I think regular film is more important than digital.
Hey, old school.
I think Bigfoot itself can these type of creatures or anything goes interdimensional. The reason why you're getting a lot of blob splotches out there is because one, I'm 99% positive these creatures are aware of humans in the area as well as electronics and technology, and I also thoroughly believe that they use infrasound.
Right, absolutely.
Affect the wavelength between when they detect the camera, and it's when they're aware of the camera, mind you, not any cameras. If they're aware of it, it's it's one of the features they have. They go into that mode, and they affect these cameras. And case in point is, and I talk about this all the time. I forgot where it was. I think it was Washington State. There was an eagle cam, and it was above a nest. It was pretty high up to check out on the new birth of eagles that were there. But on the lower right corner of it, you kind of can see to the flooring down, down below, 100 plus feet or whatever it was. And in that video, because this creature was not aware that there was a camera way up high, you clearly see something that looks like, I'm going to say a monkey, and Bigfoot has been called monkeyish to a certain degree, or apish. And it's kind of like, it looks like it's playing. It's very clear. The problem we have is the distance, right? But it definitely looks like a monkey stare, which it shouldn't be there. So I think had this creature known and been aware of it, it would have put up the infrasound or put that field out there, and it would have gotten, you would never would have seen it. This is the reason why I think 99% of the pictures you get of these cryptids, especially with digital, is messed up because they are actually messing up those cameras. They're messing up the ability. That and the fact, I love these people that take game cameras and they put them out in the field. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you ever had a baby, anyone, and you had a baby monitor, which I feel like a prison guard when I had one, like
right.
The prisoner's doing well tonight. In the pitch black, you were seeing perfect. Okay, that's because you're using ultraviolet and lighting and infrared and type of stuff, and it picks up. Matter of fact, if you were standing in the room with your digital cameras and you just took a picture, it would light up there. You can see the ray. I think these creatures have an ability, like with the tapia, to put a lens on or have a lens on, and these things pop out like a 50,000 pound purple elephant. I mean, you can't miss it. So if you think we're going to catch this creature this time, no, it knows it's there. It's smart enough to move the cameras now. These creatures have taken them off, and yes, you've gotten a glimpse of like some kind of fur, and it doesn't look like any type of animal other than looks like I guess primate fur for the most part.
Right.
I think the possibility exists that these things have a visual range.
Yep.
That dips into either the ultraviolet or the infrared,
exactly.
Most likely the infrared, because they seem to be active at night, and you don't go walk around a pitch dark forest with human eyesight. You're going to end up falling, getting tangled, banging into a tree. Yeah, these things function. They're fully functional at night.
Right.
So they've got like cat vision.
Right, like a lemur, and they have a certain filter that goes over the eye, the tape, and boom, they're able to see crystal clear at night. They're very nocturnal, or they have the ability to be nocturnal. But one thing that nothing can escape whatsoever for the most part, is the FLIR. And I have to be part of a group called Corridor 13, and it's a talent agency for people in the paranormal. There's a lot of people there. Even Bob Gibblin's part of it, and Ron Murphy. But the head of it, Russ Accord, he was on a show called Expedition Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. And look, I know all these paranormal shows. Don't get me wrong. It's a television show. There's certain, shots and films, and there's a method. There's more than one people there. But they were one of the few shows that actually started doing the right thing here. They're using analysis, quantitative analysis, to figure out where the most likely spots these creatures are going to go to, and that's where they go. And they don't go for just a couple of days. They're there for almost a month. Okay? But there was a great scene in this, and everybody said, oh, they never got any evidence. And I'm telling you, they got great evidence. And I was talking to Russ about this not that long ago. Russ was using a FLIR camera, and he caught the heat signature of a very large creature that looked kind of bipedal, humanoid, massive. And he also saw a deer, and the deer saw it. Deer was, creeping over. It was eating, and then this cryptid kind of disappeared, but the deer quickly turned to that area where the cryptid was. I think they can go in and out of a dimension that will circumvent the FLIR camera, okay? But they use it to actually for hunting and for all aspects of their life. And this deer knew something was there, and that was probably one of the best footage of evidence, recent evidence, that this creature does exist, and it can go interdimensional, that has ever been put out. You just got to look at that one scene and really think about it on a logical context versus, don't think of it as TV, stuff. It was really great evidence.
Like the Les Stroud, the Les Stroud Bigfoot.
Les Stroud, he's an interesting guy too, because that's not what his game is, right? He goes in the forest and tries to tell you how to get out. But it's very interesting that he's now coming forward with a little bit more of these stories. So, there's some good stuff with that. But I think when you use conventional cameras like, digital Sony digitals or whatever they normally use, the GoPros and stuff, I think if you set up a non-digital camera and you were taking pictures, man, I think you'd get some really great results. I think you'd get tremendous results.
It's just so hard to get any... Well, and it's so hard to get them developed now.
Yes, where do you go? There's no... Okay, there was one place called Photomat people. Yeah, no, I know. Costco does it, but it's also expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Where? King's Camera, Mount Vernon.
Yeah, you don't have the old Kmart goof-proof picture policy now. If you get it developed, you pay for it.
Yep.
And the problem with C41 process... The biggest problem with C41 process was always that it was... The chemicals didn't have much shelf life, and the reason, black and white photography, the chemicals had a great shelf life. I used to be able to do all my own black and white developing I wanted, but with C41 process, the process itself was complicated, the chemicals were hellishly expensive, and they didn't last.
Right. My dad was a professional photographer for a long, long while, and then it became the paparazzi. So, but we used to do some developing in the house, and those chemicals lasted for years. They never went bad. But I think that's also the difference between, and try to get black and white film is very difficult. It's expensive. Very few people have it. Very few people, make it. But I think it would be worth experimenting with. Also, if you really want to go see what this creature is and get them off, without being known that you're there, if you could use like a drone with a lidar or FLIR, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Depends on how good his hearing is.
Yeah, I gotta wonder about that, because it seems like one of the things about Bigfoot, a lot of the sightings, like from cars, like they don't either have a concept of what the car is, or they don't hear it coming. So you gotta wonder if their hearing is that acute,
or it's the curiosity.
Well, obviously they hear each other and they hear the slightest wood knocks.
I think we just need to take a book or like a.
I don't
Joe's
think.
book.
I seriously don't think they're as. You know, I've knocked at Bigfoot, and I've had him knocked back.
Right.
I don't think they're as. I really don't think they're as spooked as we think. So I'm gonna go a little bit French here with this, because I do think they can pick up your intention. I think because I had a weapon with me when he knocked the first time. I don't go up my mountain without a gun.
Right.
For the fact that we have bears, we have cougars, we have tweakers.
And of the three, we'll shoot the tweaker first.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
But-
me too, actually.
The wildcats and the bears get a chance.
Right. If they're a threat, okay, I'm gonna engage. But because when I didn't really get into Bigfoot until about 20. I said 2017 earlier. I think it was more like 2014.
Right.
Because 2017's too recent. It was more like 2014. We were hunting, and I heard the knock. Prior to that, I didn't really give a damn about Bigfoot or cryptids for that matter. I was born into the UFO alien abduction and everything else.
Yep.
But we heard the knock, and I knew right what I knew exactly what it was. And the skeptics go, well, what? It's probably a woodpecker. Oh, no. I've got woodpeckers, too. I know the difference. There's a huge difference in sound.
Woodpeckers don't have that kind of structure.
No. But I knew right what it was. And I was like, oh, my God. I've got Bigfoot in my backyard. Literally.
Yep.
And that's what got me going with it. But again, I've knocked back, and I've had him repeat. So
I know why it hasn't worked for us the last couple times.
Huh.
You confused him.
Well, I broke the stick.
Yeah, every time in the last 2 months. We go out, Eric picks up a stick, he knocks, the stick hits the ground. So Bigfoot's hearing knock, thump.
Bigfoot's got all the poor guy stutters.
Right?
Now, do you think if you hid in a ghillie suit and a Bigfoot was walking by and you just popped out with a Polaroid?
I think he's too smart for that.
Yeah.
No, I think
still gonna pick you up.
I believe that they sense. I honestly think that they've developed things like empathy, maybe even telepathy. I think that their senses are more honed than ours, just because of the environment they seem to live in. They would have to be a little bit more in tune, and they're going to know. They're going to either smell you or
absolutely.
They're going to sense that there's one of those civilized talking monkeys hiding in a weird, suit.
But that's the problem with digital photography too. Is how many cases have you heard where you'll set up the camera and you'll see, and it'll pick up a coyote, it'll pick up the deer. Oh, so the camera goes white. It's not a camera defect.
Nope.
It's a camera manipulation. Either by and that's another point. I think with the interdimensional fact, it's the energy field. Because you'll hear the noise in the background. He's making noise, and then the camera will go back to normal, and you'll get the deer and the other wildlife again.
Great example of what you just talked about right now is, again, the show that I'm in Into the Unknown. Cliff went out to the Sahara to go see the Sahara Sasquatch, the Sandman of the Sahara, and they found an oasis, and they put up about 7 feet up in the air some fruit, right? And he had game camera there, whatever. They heard the ruckus. He kind of came running down, and then they reviewed the footage. And at one point, the camera kind of bugs out, and the camera, there was a defect in the camera. And then it comes back on, and it was like there must have been a mechanical error. I'm like, no, dude, you just got the greatest evidence there. This cryptid just affected the camera. They're not stupid. They're very, very smart. It's like the greatest example, pre-kids, is if you came into the house, without knowing, without having children in it, whatever, you know where things are. So if something's out of place and you just know. You notice it immediately. That wasn't there the last, few minutes ago or whatever. So you'll question somebody. So when you go into Bigfoot's house, which happens to be the woods, they know when things are not in place. They know, and so it's, but people don't like to think this way. They think that they're smarter than everybody else. They don't realize that even though this cryptid is very to itself and it's very elusive, it's a very intelligent being. I think it is his own species itself, and they're aware of when things are out of place. But a good telltale sign is if you're ever in the woods and it just goes quiet, that is the sign that something's there. And we're not talking about a bear or a cat. We're talking about something bigger.
Talking an apex predator of some kind.
Yeah, a major apex predator. And that usually should get the average bear unnerved, because that's when part of the expression, the shit's going to get real very quick.
Yep. I want to switch topics.
Sure.
We don't hear much about Goatman. I want to know what you know about Goatman.
You know what? It is such an elusive type of cryptid, which is very interesting with the Goatman. You don't hear much about Goatman at all. People have seen this creature that has, it looks like a goat. It's basically it's like Sasquatch, but with a goat, the horns, and it's just there. It just exists. I think there were a couple sightings in southern New Jersey, had a couple of sightings, and that could have been mistaken also for the New Jersey Devil, and also Maryland had a couple of Goatman sightings. But in general, it's very few sightings, and that's it. No one's really reported seeing this Goatman too often. It just appears, and then decades later, it may appear again. I don't even recall anything recent of a Goatman sighting.
I think one of the most striking ones came out of Kentucky. The Goatman, these guys had an old camper parked out, like a deer hunting camper, and this supposedly this Goatman attacked the camper.
Yeah,
Jim.
There was a picture of, but again, these things can be manipulated. There was that game camera picture, of what looked like a Goatman. It definitely looked like horns on its head. It looked like a weirded physical, human-esque body, weird feet, very bizarre feet, almost like, let's say, like a hoof on it. Definitely had horns on it. Not many other features, God bless you, but I've heard about the Goatman attacking a trailer at one point, but we don't really get any calls about, hey, I saw a Goatman.
Right.
So
I got one, but
kind of like Pan.
I don't.
I mean, if you look at the mythological creature Pan, demigod Pan,
he's a Greek
Goatman. Yeah. So you got to wonder if Goatman hasn't existed before, and most of these myths do have a kernel of truth. They started, to explain something. Maybe this cryptid has existed alongside us for thousands of years. It just goes under different names. The Greeks called it Pan.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was a god. Now it's a cryptid. But Pan had a human head, goat's body, human head.
But he also had the horns.
Right.
He did have the horns. I mean, like in Maryland, I believe, where they had it, it was in connection with like a research center or agricultural center, and there were scientists involved, and it kind of gave the feel that this was a concoction made from science, like a creature, like Frankenstein.
A chimera, something that they were combining genes and.
Yeah. Which, don't get me wrong, I think they have done that. I think I forgot what the heck it was called. It was washed up on the shore of Long Island.
Montauk monster.
Montauk monster. I think that's definitely could be that was definitely some kind of genetic experiments and things. And this is where this is your atypical start of every horror film or horror book. We're doing things we shouldn't be doing. Because you know what? This is the type of what humans do.
If we can do it, we will do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's not enough. God was like, let's get that, a platypus. We'll take a duck and a beaver, and let me put something together, or a jackalope. But a lot of these legends and folklore, folk tales that we hear, and the mythology that we've read, in school about these creatures, and the Minotaur and what have you, and giants. This doesn't just it's not just in Greece or in Rome. There are similar creatures that are found throughout the world. Right now, Ron and I we're compiling a book. We're almost finished with it, and it connects. We're going to be dealing a lot with giants. And something of interest is the native people of the lands in North America talk very much about giants existing and a war against giants. And we're talking about double row of teeth, red hair, extremely tall. Some of them, upwards of 30 feet tall, which I think is a little bit much. But, you go to that story. Then you get to the Bible and you talk about the different Bible giants, David and Goliath, and the Nephilim being ginormous.
And you also just described the Beast of Kandahar, which we're looking into earlier today in the military show. The Beast of Kandahar actually attacked special forces that were in Afghanistan.
Yes. But you see how it's so you got in Afghanistan, you got over in India something similar.
Right.
When you see these maps, and I remember these sea maps, you see them where they draw mermaids in the water, and this beast that will come and attack and pull ships under.
There'll be dragons here.
Yep, exactly. You say, that's just fantasy. If one group is doing it before there's an internet and whatever, and someone's telling a tall tale, you have to have a really great imagination, because it's seen throughout multiple cultures that had no interactions with each other throughout the world. So, and I personally believe that lends credibility that these creatures, cryptids, if you want to call them now, did at one time exist. And I think some of them still do exist against, Kandahar.
Right.
The forces are attacking these, are being attacked by this creature. It's just, unfortunately, they're not paying all of us to go and, spend a month in Kandahar and say and interview some of these, soldiers.
No, good luck with that.
Plus, they were probably told to shut up.
You don't have to worry about the Beast of Kandahar. You got to worry about the Taliban going over there.
Yeah.
Hey, Beast of Kandahar is the least of your worries.
Yep, you gotta get the beard going again, and
right.
Get a little bit more
beard.
But some of these people they know about it, and they've known about it for years, and they just don't talk about it. They don't go to those areas in the cave. You leave that alone,
right?
But again, it's very strange how all these cryptids come into play, and going back to what I was saying initially, there was one point where we're doing something with the Serpent Mound, actually, in Ohio. They had a conference out in Serpent Mound. There was a guy named Chief Joseph, chief of the Arawaks. And a gentleman comes up to Chief Joseph with what looks like a 7-foot sword. And but the way it looked, it was missing the lilt part on the bottom. And Chief Joseph said, that looks just like a lance, an Indian lance. And the sword was given to him. And if you go back to the stories, they did a little testing on the metal there. The metal that was the tests come back from that metal. Mind you, this is the Ohio region of North America, the Mound region, and they discovered that the metal which was found in that area, this sword, this saber. The metal comes from the Middle East. It comes from Turkey. It comes from what would be Mesopotamia. And so you got to ask yourself, what is a piece of metal that's shaped into a saber that looks like a lance, doing that's from the Middle East, doing in North America. And if you trace these things back to the actual Bible area, when the Lord said, to the people of Israel or whatever, the tribes, you need to get rid of these giants, you need to kill them. And the giants, of course, disperse. And rumor or thought is that they did disperse. They okay, it's hunting season on giants, and some came to North America, some went to South Asia, some went up north, to the colder regions. So there's some legends, there's some things here that you don't want to. Some people don't want to believe. They're like, there's no such thing as giants. Well, we all know that they've been finding giant bones around the world.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Smithsonian's been sucking them and taking them and stealing them. They just found another set, I believe. I'm trying to remember where it was. I just read something where they uncovered bones of someone who was, I think, 20 feet tall. The skull, the whole body. Those will go missing soon, too. That's how our government works.
They'll be sequestered, yes.
Let me give you a mundane reason for having a saber from the Middle East in North America.
Sure.
We bring, when we go to Iraq, we bring artifacts and things we might find throughout the Middle East, Iraq. So our guys went to Syria. They might find a saber. They throw it in their stuff, and it gets through customs. It winds up in North America.
Yes.
Happens all the time.
But
or it could be.
Well, one of the things to consider about this, though, they found copper in Egypt that was isotopically identical to the copper in Michigan.
Oh, absolutely.
So there is evidence that
it's crossover.
There was trade between the North American continent and Egypt, that region.
Oh, absolutely.
They were making it across the ocean in what we would consider prehistoric, or not prehistoric so much, but I guess you'd call it biblical times. We're talking 4,000 years ago. There was commerce between the Mississippian culture in America and the Egyptians.
And let us not forget what was discovered in the Grand Canyon area.
Oh, yeah.
Large Egyptian tombs with giants in there. We're not talking about we're talking giants.
Yeah, and you gotta
20, 30
ask,
feet tall.
where did they come from? How are they over here? I mean,
if they are 30 feet tall, they probably swing.
Oh,
no. No, that's even a bit much there.
That's still...
Right.
I'm kidding. God.
You gotta wonder where the ships are, though.
Right.
The giants would have built ships to get here, and by scale, they would have had to be the size of aircraft carriers.
Mount Ararat.
Well, where did the giants come from originally?
That's the big question. Where they come from originally? Are they
let's say
the
Nephilim?
Yeah.
Are they a product of the Anunnaki? There's other race that came here that are almost regarded as kings or rulers over humans because of
the
their
early
sheer
gods.
size and whatever.
Could these giants have elongated skulls?
Yes, some of them have elongated skulls.
and
looks like a third eye, actually.
And I honestly do not think they're alien.
No, neither do I. I personally don't think the elongated skull means that they're alien.
No,
right.
But I think possibly maybe giants. Okay, if you look at there's a scientific way to figure out the maximum size a creature can get to based on our gravity and our oxygen content. And it seems like these giants are pushing the limits of what could survive under those conditions, and that kind of leads me to think that they were not from here,
Okay, but
and maybe they evolved down to these 30-foot.
Possibly, but you have to look at what age were they actually walking the Earth, and what was the gravity and the oxygen level at that point.
Pretty much the way it is now, because you can take Arctic air or Arctic and Antarctic ice samples, and they're kind of like tree rings. These ice cores tell you what the climate, what the oxygen content, what the environment was like going back thousands of years. And 20% oxygen, 21% seems to be where we stabilized for the last several, 100,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you also got to consider the fact that way back when there wasn't as many, I'm going to say living creatures or humans here. There was a lot more water than or landmass and surface, and we do get a large percentage of our oxygen from the water. It was cleaner, so we don't know what the effects of that clean oxygen were in the atmosphere. We can't necessarily, go back to that point. Even with cores, I mean, how far down do you have to go with a core sample before you actually get to like real history and some other, that would justify what we're saying right now. And who's to say we haven't done that and it's never been revealed? Because that would just take the whole narrative of, God, the higher power, the church control, the government control away. I mean, if people realized that there were giants on this planet and there were aliens on this planet, I mean, if you think we have problems now in this country,
they're all aliens.
They're all aliens. Go crazy. But
I think that's one of the problems, though. You got this parochial attitude, and even if you could show UFOs are real, aliens are real, giant, just pick your subject. You're going to have this core of...
They're all demons.
Yeah, you're just going to have this core of religious fundamentalists that are going to...
Everything's a demon.
Okay, it's like...
Everything's a demon.
Yeah,
what was the explanation for... Okay, it was found that a lot of the Christian... the basis of Christianity, the virgin birth, blah, 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 had precursors in Mithraism, different... different religions that came up before Christianity. There's these parallels, and all it was is this Pope said, well, the devil knew this was going to happen, so he kind of muddied the... it always comes down to Satan did it. And then if you actually study and research in the origin of Satan, Satan is not what we think of now. Satan was a blanket term for
anything evil.
No, not even evil. No. It was a adversary.
Yep.
Elaine Pagels wrote a fantastic book called The Origin of Satan, and how basically this idea of an adversary morphed into the embodiment of evil, because the church needed a boogeyman.
Right.
Well, but at the same time, you're choosing one belief over another. You're arguing theology. It's a belief.
Right. I mean...
Have you ever met him?
No, but you can actually go back in the literature and the writings and see the evolution.
Are all lies.
Right.
You can't throw everything out because you can't say it's all lies.
Why everyone has for Christianity for the last 200 years.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That you can't. But no. Are you purposely misunderstanding what I'm saying?
No, but I'm saying you're arguing theology. You can't honestly argue theology. It's a religious belief. It's all based off belief and faith, no matter which side you're looking at, because you're believing a book that's been written. That's still faith. You're having faith in that book, in that writer.
And that's Islam, that's Christianity, that's
Catholicism,
all the Abrahamic religion. But you can look back at where Satan, the writing suggests that Satan was an adversary. There's one one of the stories, this guy was told not to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. Well, he decides he's going to go there anyway, and his donkey sees the adversary, as it's written, the Satan, meaning the adversary, who is supposed to kill this guy if he goes up there. Mm-hmm. Well, he starts beating the donkey because the donkey's not having anything to do with it. And finally, the Satan appears, like, don't beat that donkey. It just saved your life.
Yep.
Because, if you kept on your way, my orders were, to keep you from coming here.
All right. With that, folks, we do need to take a break. It is top of the hour, and we'll come back. We will carry on this awesome cryptid conversation. Stay tuned.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4. We are down to the last hour of the second to the last show. We have Roundtable after this show, and we're done until next week. But next week will be a regular show. Oh, God, thank God. So, yeah, back to Bryan. What were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about different, the way these creatures can exist and how they get there. And something we propose a lot is there's certain symbols that are are found throughout multiple cultures around the world. And it's almost like a circle within a circle within a circle. You get them in Ireland a lot. You get them in the UK, in the British Isles a lot. And you get it if you look at the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio. It's a tail. But the native indigenous people throughout the world have these symbols around. And I think that we could be talking about something older technology which has been lost, and that is portals. And I think portals did exist and do exist.
Oh,
and I think there
absolutely.
were ways to transport from point A to point B, like doing the trade route from Egypt to North America via a portal.
I honestly think the portals are part of the reason people are missing 411.
They wander into them. And
yeah.
Yep.
I honestly think that's a possibility.
There's certain areas in this world that they have, vortexes. We'll call them portals that take place. Something that was very recent lately was that there was a group that did like rescue for ski rescue, and they had a session over here in New York State, and there was a guy that came down. He was from Canada, Canadian Patrol, and they were going through this training exercise. I forgot the name of the mountain too, but it recently happened. And he's going down the mountain. There was a really weird weather pattern that took place on this mountain, and the guy disappeared. And people are looking for this guy. They sent up, teams upon teams for this person, and he's totally disappeared from the area.
Right.
Well, his wife gets a collect call from California from her husband that disappeared. He's like, I don't know where the hell I am or how I got here, but I have no money on me. He's in his ski outfit in California, and he's called his wife, I need to get back here. And he can't, and they got him, and they brought him back, and they just don't know how he could have traveled. They checked all the logs, from airplanes to trains to everything.
Right.
So I think there are these portals, like you were talking about missing 311, and these weather systems that come in, and because of the energy created in these systems, they are opening up rips in space and time, and you could travel. And I think this is partially how some of these cryptids that we've been talking about, they know about them. It's and they use these little moments or vehicles to their advantage.
Do you think that possibly these portals are left over from I don't believe that we're the first technologically advanced civilization on the planet. I think we've been here and probably wipe ourselves out multiple times. Could these portals be left over from, maybe it was just like Grand Central Station. The city no longer exists where they were, but the portal remains just because of the nature of its construction.
Right, and it's funny, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I believe that throughout the time on this planet, millions of years ago, if not more, longer than that, we've had different eras of, we've gotten to a certain point technology-wise, and we've just wiped ourselves out. Or if you want to go with the higher power, wiping us out and saying, nope, we got to start again. You screwed that one up, boom, and then we start again. And but I don't think it's leftovers. I think if we travel to, let's say, Mars or I think these are natural occurrences that are within the universe on different systems. It just naturally appears. It's part of nature. Yeah, it's wormholes, but it's also like, have you noticed that a lot of these things happen on the ley lines, where there's magnetic anomalies? This is all part of the system. It's not something like, hey, let's build this here. They know to go to it. There's always been rumors, and you guys...
They're naturally occurring then.
Right, naturally occurring, like stargates.
I think they open up at random, though, is my other thing. I don't think they're in a set area. because you look at the clusters in 401, and you know, these are all over the map. No, I don't. But with that, I don't think portals are the only thing making people disappear. I think it's a combination between government. I think it's a combination with, you know, government, some alien races, maybe, other things that are still unknown, and portals. I don't think it's just one thing.
Well, you know, going to the government end of it, I think, you know, with our interactions with, we'll call them extraterrestrials that have come here and crashed here over time, and then eventually, I think we definitely have had the treaties set up with select races, and we've been reverse engineering in front of their, in front of their faces and behind their backs. Yeah. I think we're shooting stuff down now. I thoroughly believe we are probably about 150 years ahead of anybody on this planet in technology, and we're not going to admit to it. And that's
I think a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
I think a couple of weeks ago we witnessed a maneuver. Even if it wasn't necessarily a battle, I think we saw a maneuver.
That light to the U?
Yeah, I think
maybe
because we saw the blinkers, and then this thing came out of the northeast.
Yeah,
and did a U-E, and
stopped right over our heads. But it was like it was a star.
And that's not the first time we've seen that here. So there's something going on up over our head, whether it's Space 100%. Force or what. If it's all terrestrial, or if it's us versus them, or them versus them, there's something going on up there.
Oh, there's definitely there's definitely alien races that are at war with each other. I have no doubt about that. And we're just
I don't have a doubt about it at all either.
Right.
I think, have you noticed there's only a select few individuals that have, and I'm going to say it this way, have been given permission to leave this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Select group of individuals, and it's always under the guise, no matter what country it is highly kept. It's kept very compartmentalized, very secret, and they don't reveal it. And I think the main reason why it isn't revealed and you don't see these things is because if you were to take a craft right now, let's say you got lucky, you have a UFO and you shot up out of the system and you went into space, you would be surrounded by a variety of different races, different crafts, almost poised at each other, like waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, when do we get the shoe? Just hold on a few more minutes.
Well,
I think there is a battle going on.
Yeah. Do you subscribe to that there's possibly a breakaway civilization, that there's, I guess and for want of a better term, an elite that maybe they self-chose, but that there's a spacefaring humanity that the rest of us just aren't privy to because we're deemed unworthy?
I think when a lot of craft go past the planet Earth, they lock the doors.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just see them like, just lock it up. People.
Oh God, what are the talking monkeys doing now?
Yeah, I think we're not as I'm not going to say civilized, but we're not up to par with a lot of them.
But the fact that they're in open warfare in our skies suggests to me that maybe their technology is in advance of us, but not necessarily their culture, their civilization.
I think you have a variety of different cultures and civilizations that span millennia of years. People that have been doing this for who's the new kids on the block? Okay, they got crafts now. Okay,
it's talking monkeys. Okay.
Right, and it's not just talking monkeys. It's talking insects and reptilians and you name it in the Nordics. I mean, there's so many different crafts here. I just want to stress, because we were talking about Bigfoot, I don't believe Bigfoot are aliens. So I'm just going to say, just think because they are a more evolved species, the aliens are aware of Bigfoot as well as Bigfoot's aware of aliens. And I'm using aliens as anything not from this earth. But when you get into these craft and what's going on outside this planet, I think there is a select few that are looking out in many ways, saying no, let them choose their course. I think you have another select few that want resources here that are plentiful, that they're missing or they need. And I think there's something like some kind of like stalemate going on. There's people in the UFO community. It kind of drives me a little bit nuts. They always talk about the Galactic Federation, like like there's this giant table and they're sitting there determining everything. And I always have this vision of so should we have Chinese for lunch or pizza?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a lot of 411 too. Is that we're prey. We're a food.
And they don't give a damn about the human condition. If they did, they would have been down here already.
Right. And it's funny. The crafts have evolved a lot, and a lot of people. Some people are saying there's a lot more UFO sightings this year. I don't really see it as much. But what I think is, anytime you see a craft and you get video of a craft, be it the triangle craft, which is wonderful, which I thoroughly believe is one of ours.
TR-3B.
Or the black, the TR-3B. These alien races are very good at not being detected. And I think a lot of really weird things are taking place now. And I'm noticing that, I believe that they're using a lot more type of forms that blend into the scenery and cloud-based. So you'll see a very unusual
definitely cloud-based.
Well, look at some of the lightning strikes.
Right. And I think that's how they're observing, that's how they're coming down, disguising themselves as clouds or cloud-based type of craft. And anything that's being really reported now, I think, is drone-based / man-made. Probably by us.
Well, when you're at Mount Shasta and there's a cloud hanging at the peak, other clouds are moving by, but all this cloud is doing is changing shape, staying there, maybe changing shape, but it's staying there. That's not a cloud. I mean, I might be the scientist in the group, but and supposedly the skeptic, but when you have that kind of encounter, okay, explain to me how in a 20-mile-an-hour wind or better, with other clouds moving, that one's not.
Hey, so Izzy in the chat room wants to know, have you ever studied the Ahul in Indonesia?
No, I have not studied the Ahul in Indonesia.
It's a bat creature.
Yeah,
like the Papagawa.
Indonesia. That's. I mean, I know some of you may have been to the Indonesian area, but that's a very scary area. Indonesia has a lot of freaky stuff going on there. It's almost like I would call it God's playground of let's put everything that's poisonous and can kill you and really messed up in one section. And they just it's
everything they ran out of room for in Australia went to Indonesia.
That's Australia.
Yeah, we ran out of room in Australia, so let's bring it up to Indonesia. No, this is the whole thing with the different cultures have the same or similar cryptids or creatures in there, and I don't think it's I will wager the farm that it's not an offshoot of humanity. The missing link that everybody's talking about. I think all of these are their own separate species. And I think a lot of what's being seen actually is interdimensional. And, we're in a room right now, right? So you're over where you guys are and I'm here and I see what I see. But it's like a radio. I can tune in whatever frequency I want. If I want country, boom, I got country. If I want rock and roll, I get rock and roll. And I think once we get it a little bit more into the quantum physics end of it, and we learned all about these multidimensionals and interdimensional, there's going to be stuff that pops out. You're not alone in your apartment or your house. There's more things in there but you just can't see them. You can't tune into them.
Right.
And I think we have yet to do that.
Well, I think that's consciousness as a whole. I think the brain acts more like a radio tuner, and you perceive with your brain that all of consciousness is being broadcast throughout the universe.
Yep.
And individual people, your brain acts as a tuner, and you perceive what your brain has evolved to perceive. But that's not the be all and end all of reality. Mm-hmm. That might be why if you take DMT, all of a sudden you opened up to a whole broader spectrum and you see what's there already. You're just able to see it.
Right. I was recently having a discussion about DMT, a couple of the other lovely substances that some of the spiritual gurus have taken, medicine men and the religious take to actually communicate with, I'm going to use the term God. I think one of the ways that we can open ourselves up and encounter more of these things in a positive light and be a better person and evolve is to raise I think it goes down to vibration. I wasn't one of these people talking all the time about, we've got to love everybody. And I'm like, there is a place for war in this world. Good and evil do exist. But I think that if you can figure out a way to raise your vibration, meditation, 5 minutes a day, to just really recuperate and understand more. It's like taking DMT. You're going to open your eyes up to more things that are possible. You're going to start using more portions of your brain. And things, this is why the masters were the masters, like Jesus and Buddha and all these that have come before. They are resonating in a higher level. Some of these priests and religious people, rabbis, priests, whoever it is, that have this channel almost to God is because they're vibrating at a different level. And I think these creatures that we talk about, we investigate. I'm not talking necessarily as much about Loch Ness, but I'm talking about these ones that I believe are interdimensional. They resonate in a higher level, of higher frequency. They're aware of things. And the more we use our brain and the more we become aware and more we resonate higher and our frequency changes, we can then, go into different frequencies. It's a little bit weird, but I think it's very important part of the whole research of the paranormal.
Absolutely. I would agree. And we really hit a lot of these ascended masters again lead to UFO cults quite often.
Yes.
And we hit a lot of them. Like three shows. The third show in.
and unfortunately, I didn't hear it, but I did get the question about Greer, and and if you want to talk about a cult type mentality, wow.
Absolutely, because when that goes with both sides. You've got to the stars. Oh, they're all evil. Shoot them all down. The big alien threat. And then you've got Greer on the flip side of that, telling all his little followers, "Oh, they're the Space Brothers. It's a brotherhood. Yep. We love them all." There is no middle ground. There has to be a middle ground. Right.
Well, here's the thing, right? So knowing what I know and people that I know, to the Stars Academy, I'm going to go say that I don't trust any organization that is pretty much made up of spooks.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I have no trust in them whatsoever, no faith, and I do not believe that they are telling you the truth. They are.
Dude,
misinformation.
Honestly, they've been in the government for years, and all of a sudden, a rock star pulls them all together. No, hell no. I don't play that game.
And the rock star from Blink-182, Tom DeLonge is the Lee Harvey Oswald of the UFO community.
Right.
And you know what? People, trust me, I have people that hate what I say. I don't care anymore. I fear two things in this life: God and my wife. Not that order. Okay. And then maybe my daughter.
Right.
It's just I don't trust them. Now the problem I have with Greer is, here's another guy who is a doctor, an emergency room doctor, and all of a sudden this guy who's a nobody, emergency room doctor, is giving briefings to the President of the United States? No, I don't think so. He's not a nobody. He's a somebody, and he's connected. And again, we're getting to the spook zone of the thing. Like people that their mission is to infiltrate and hopefully do good for our country.
Here is where I stand with Greer. Seaside, hell no.
Yep.
I think his disclosure project, whether he had an alternative motive or not, I don't know, but I think it was a good idea. I think it had a good plan, but it didn't go anywhere.
You got corrupted by money.
Honestly,
That's this failed, now how do I make a buck? Let's try and revamp it, and how can I make a buck off of it?
Yeah, so he took that. They all did their little spiel to the, these retired congressional committee and the press conference and whatnot, but it didn't come to fruition. It didn't do anything.
Right.
They were all great people, potentially, that, if their message would have gotten out where it needed to get out and not been blocked, it could have gone somewhere. But disclosure wasn't meant to happen. Like I've said before, 1952, Washington White House flyover with a radar return in front of the public. Mass, that to me was disclosure. It doesn't need some little meat puppet standing on the White House steps going, yep, we've got UFOs. That's not, who cares? Brazil's already done it. France has done it. UK's done it. We've got Pine Gap in Australia that's essentially done it. Everybody knows the stories. Why does the United States need to be the ones to go, yep, they're here. We've got enough world craft in the Pentagon. No.
Yeah. I first met my buddy Al because I got a dare to go to one of these UFO meetups. And I went to a meetup, and it happened to turn out it was kind of like, it was really weird. When I went there, my wife's like, well, how was it? I said, it's kind of like walking into a live X-Files episode. Yeah. There was a lot of weird people there, and some people that definitely needed, help. And I mean that sincerely, medical type of help. And there's other people there that were seeing things and people just wanted to discuss. What was great about it was the person that ran it knew a lot of people in the UFO community, so they brought these people into a small classroom size group, and we were seeing some top tier people for free. So that was great. But there's a lot of these people are Greer people, and a lot of these people want, we need disclosure now. And I said it straight up.
You've had
they all think I work for the DHS or government. I'm not. I don't work for the government. Actually, we all work for the government. It's called taxes. But I said it, and I'll own it. If I was the President of the United States, if I was the guy in charge, and I knew exactly what was taking place, and we had these crafts at X, Y, and Z, given the fact that there are more enemies out there than friends, I would never disclose what we have. I would never disclose the UFO technology because we need that leg up to protect this country. And people just can't get past it. For some reason, these people that have been ridiculed their whole entire lives for believing in this subject, basically, they need a moment like, I told you so. Whereas if you really research it, you don't care if that moment comes. You know it's real. You've had your experiences. You don't need disclosure. Why? But disclosure now has become a moneymaker. Greer making these films. I just need everybody to give me $1. I want 1 billion people to give me $1. I'm like, I want 1 billion people to give me $0.25.
Yeah, no kidding.
Exactly. So it's all about money. To the Academy, to the stars, they're about money.
But if you don't need disclosure, why are you still researching? What's the point?
My point is not about disclosure. It's more answers. See, every time you get to a point of where you think you got it, something happens and like, oh crap, we're back at square one again. I want answers. I mean, I would love to have an interaction, a conscious interaction with beings from another race and say, what is it like? Why are you here? And get these answers. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I got it. You know, and that's what
But-
I'm looking for. It's always about answers.
Okay, but full disclosure is not your guy coming up and saying, okay, they're real.
No.
It's not someone else coming up and saying they're real. It's the alien actually coming and saying, we're here. Right?
Yeah, you know what? I think eventually they will come and say, look, we're here. Go about your business. We'll be watching you from above. It's not about them for me. It's not about them saying it. You know, I have answers. Is there, you know, is God real? Where do God bless you. How many other you know, life forms are there? What type of life forms? These are the questions they've always had. Like, what is it like to be in space?
But until
You know,
we
would I
actually
like to
get
trip on a
disclosure,
UFO? Sure
none of
as
those
hell I
answers
would.
can be none of those answers can come to you. It's not going to happen until disclosure happens. Until they actually come here.
But that's the thing too. Even disclosure is not going to answer the questions he's asking.
Right.
Right.
The president, the government doesn't know the answers. They're speculating. Why do you think my labs happen?
But I just said disclosure is not the
Right.
government coming down. It's an actual alien coming to you and telling you, I am real.
Right.
And this is what I'm
Right.
doing.
Okay.
So
And
that is
there are
disclosure,
people-
because the government has said aliens are real, and no one gives a shit. That's not disclosure anymore.
Right. Yeah,
So
no,
we
I
still
think
do
they're
need
waiting-
disclosure.
Yeah, I think honestly, the people that are really screaming for it are doing so to kind of show face and say, I told you so. I don't need the I told you so moment. I mean, it.
We already believe.
Yeah.
Everybody sitting around this table already believes. So
Yeah.
disclosure for us would be like, well, no shit. We knew that all
Yeah, you
along. Now let's get on to the nitty gritty.
Well, something on my end, something that's changed is, you know, when I was with Bronxville Paranormal, I still am. We investigated everything. It doesn't matter because a lot of things correlate to each other. Like I said, there's a correlation between Bigfoot and UFOs. There is. There's a lot of sightings of light beam, and we discussed a bit of that. But we got crapped on because we were investigating Bigfoot. We were investigating other cryptids and UFOs. Like apparently, if you have one group, you can't investigate everything. You have to have a separate group for everything.
Yeah, that's us. We're all, if it's, you know, for us, the paranormal, it's all paranormal.
Years ago,
Right.
oh my God, it pissed me off so much because years ago I'd be sharing FMP, Force Movement Paranormal, and other groups. And
Right.
why are you talking about aliens? We don't believe in aliens. We only believe in spirits. So how the hell are you paranormal? Paranormal is everything.
Right.
Oh, no.
Right.
How can you believe in a spirit but not something up in the sky that you know, the 11 billion planets and there's nothing, there's not life? And then you go to the cryptid side.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, one of the things we started this group, we do live meetings in New York State, downstate and upstate in New York, where people can get to come in. We created a group. I created a group called the New York State UFO Project. And basically it was a place where people of like mind for UFO subjects, people who have been abducted or had an experience or have questions, can come and meet in a secured area where no one's going to ridicule you. And we have a lot of people that have been abducted and have experiences with these things. Their kids are being abducted, and they're freaked out. And we offer that ability for this to meet up and say, look, we believe you, and we're here to help you.
And that's what most of them just
I do
want.
some of these things too. You know, is there's, you know, helping out people. It's a feel-good type of thing, but it also helps me out because I'm doing research on the UFOs and aliens. What type of aliens were there? There was a reptilian in my room, and blah, blah, blah. You go through the whole thing. And eventually these people kind of open up, and they realize it's okay to talk about it. You're not going to be ridiculed. And they're normally not going to talk about it. But also, some of these people don't want to get involved in the paranormal, like ghost side, because they feel that's demonic. It's really weird. Everybody has their own way of looking at it. I don't think demons are aliens at all.
No, not at all.
A demon is a demon,
Right.
you know. And but if we can help, and in the process, I'll tell you straight up, my pay is getting information from it and getting some of my questions answered or connecting the dots. from point A to point B. And that's what I get from it. That's why I continue to do it. I don't need disclosure. You know, we discussed this. I don't need it. I don't care if the President of the United States, whoever it may be, when, where, said, you know, there's aliens here. They've been here for millennia, and they're real. You know, that doesn't do anything for me. You know, who cares? You know, I want to have an interaction with them. I want to meet them. I want to, you know, we do a lot of CE5s. That's another thing Greer thinks he invented. Dr. Greer did not invent the close encounter of the fifth kind.
I have a very hard time with CE5s. I have a very hard time with channelers. I have a very hard time who says, I'm in physical contact with aliens. I just do. Because then they take that channeling message, and that's how the cult forms. You know.
Well, yep. I hear you. And
I'm very skeptical of channeling.
Well, one of the things we did with, I'm skeptical of it too. I have a friend that does it. You know, it's really weird. I have to experience certain things myself before I can say, okay, there's something to it. So I'm always skeptical of that. I'm also skeptical of psychics, although I know people that are very good at what they do, and they are psychic and they have abilities. I vet these people hard. You know, I'm not there to ridicule them. I'm not one of those that has an interview with somebody and tear them to shreds. I have no desire to tear anybody to shreds. But I know who the real ones are and who are the fake ones are. So one of the things we do, we started something up in Pine Bush, New York. Now, Pine Bush is significant because Whitley Strieber had a house up there, and that's where the communion stuff took place.
That's where, isn't that where there were 7 years of nonstop UFO sightings?
Yes, they are. It is pretty much the Roswell of the East Coast. It's one of the hotbeds of UFO encounters. So every year they have a festival there, UFO festival. And one year we started the paranormal section of it. And about 2 years ago, when we were up there, I wasn't there last year. I was invited to be part of another group, another expo called the New Jersey Paracon, which is fantastic. It's very family friendly. I recommend it to everybody when they come back. Not this year, but next year. But and I wasn't going to miss that. I was the middleman between the UFO guys and the Cryptid guy, and I was putting it together. But prior to that, we were up in Pine Bush. We did a couple of presentations that day. We got there. It was a very early day, from 4 in the morning until 1 o'clock in the morning the next day. Kind of like your 24-hour thing here. We did a couple presentations, and we're going to culminate the whole night by doing a CE5 up there. We were going to try it. Now, it's a 50-50 shot whether it works or not. You're either going to get something or not, right? So, but me and my partner, my buddy Al, we were wiped out. We were like hoping nobody would show up. We just wanted to go home, you know? I mean, seriously, we were really tired. Like, oh, crap, I hope no one shows up. Well, when we get to this field that was designed there, there's about 60 people there already. And anyhow, I had to go to the field. We were being filmed for German TV at one point. I had to do a quick interview there for them. And there were 60 people there. I'm like, okay, so I guess we're going to be doing this. And Al was like, he put it on me. He's like, it's all your baby now. So, and then later on, another like 25 people or more showed up. They traveled over to this field. And we're all sitting out in our chairs and whatever, and we can see it's a nice night, a little bit hazy, but you can see where the air traffic was flying, so you know where the traffic was coming from for like Stewart's Air Force Base right there. But other than that, you can see for miles. You can see the mountains in the background, a great night sky. And the way I do it is this: I don't want to be guided by anybody. I can do my own type of, thought and meditation to bring myself. But I had to clear people from the excitement of the day. There's all this UFO fanfare or whatever. I said, so let's clear this out. And we cleared it out. And now what we're trying to do is, in your head, you trying to connect with these aliens, these beings. Say, listen, we'd like to have an interaction with you. Can you make your presence known? That's what I basically told them. And we're sitting there for about 25, 30 minutes. Everybody's relaxing where we're trying to make this contact. We're looking up and there's nothing going on. And then out of nowhere, I kind of heard this hoot and hollering thing going on where I was sitting in my chair. And I know there's a baseball field over there. And I know that if I grew up in that town and I was a kid, I'd be drinking beers over there, right?
Right.
So I think it was like, I was about to complain to my buddy, like, you know, sitting next to me. He's like, dude, you hear that hooting and hollering? Like, what the heck's going on over there? And some guy comes out, you know, stands up and goes, did you hear that owl? Now, he said owl. And then it registered, okay, there's the hoot and the hollering. And as soon as he said the owl, I said, yeah, we were going to see the owl. And within a minute of him saying, have you seen the owl? Are we recognizing that? My hand to God, a freaking craft appears above our head. It has a center dome on it, center dome light, an LED white. And you can just see like there was like a hexagonal type of something holding it in place. It was ginormous. It was very big. Everybody that was there, about 100 people, go ooh and ah. And I'm just sitting there like, and I'm going to say it straight up, holy shit. There's something just appeared in the sky right above our heads. You could see where it was darker than the night sky, and there was definitely a definition there, and it was almost like an angled base. So my buddy starts taking the flashlight out and signaling, ... dash ... right? Next thing you know, the craft's signaling back, ... dash ... I'm like, I'm not saying this out loud, but I'm like, I can't believe I'm witnessing what I just witnessed.
Right.
Now, and then all of a sudden we were asked, can you do something special, like a maneuver or whatever? And it shoots out, and you can see it moving from one mountain range to another, which is the distance is probably about 50 miles, you know, from point to point if you really drove it. And it's coming back, and then comes back, and he's signaling it again. It repeats the signal back to us, and then it disappears. It just stops. And we're like, whoa. And then I said, you know, one more time, I said, can you just make your presence known one more time? And after I said it, again, the light shows up in the middle. There's the craft is there, and it's blending into the night sky. That's what I'm saying. You can see where it's darker than the night sky. And it stays there for a couple of, like a minute more, and then it's gone. Absolutely gone. I got to be honest, I'm an investigator. I never really thought things like this could happen, but it did happen. Right. And I understand why people are skeptical of this. But I think that we've talked about intention before. Our intention, it was very peaceful. We just want to have an interaction with you. Can you make your presence known? And it obliges by that. And I think these beings are aware of what's going on mentally in our minds. They can hear us. They can hear our thought process. And we were not... I know there was a police car there, too. And I know the director of the town, and I've been trying to get to talk to that police officer, but I have no avail just yet. But this year, October 2nd, we're going to try it again. The problem is, lightning never strikes twice in my book. So we'll try to do it. And this time we're going to try to videotape everything. Because that wasn't on our game plan. We weren't we were wiped out. Equipment was back in the car. We just wanted to go home. And then this happened. And let me tell you something. That whole night, I was up for hours after that. I could not believe what I saw.
So I've got a question for Michael in the chat room.
Sure.
Do you purchase gear for your team?
Yeah, we pool our resources sometimes on gear. Each of us, purchase something, a couple of things. I have EMF detectors. I have an RF detector, the frequency bands like they used on. I have the same one they used. I've got the model on Skinwalker Ranch because I want to get.
SB7.
Yeah, my buddy has the S. Is it S7? It's the S7.
SB7. Yeah. I think there's an SB11 out there now.
Right.
No,
I don't have that. I find that annoying.
SB7 is just as good. I mean, what are they going to do this any better? Honestly, right. I have a hard time with the alphabet thing.
Ouija boards?
No.
Yeah, we don't play with. I don't play with Ouija boards. We do make spirit boards actually for different type of uses.
Right.
My buddy Ron and I would make them for if you want to capture fairy, but in general, I'm not one that plays with those.
But I never got any reaction out of one.
So no, it's an electronic device that actually it's a word scanner.
Oh, it's an Ovilus.
Ovilus, yeah.
I have a hard time with that because you have an Ovilus that has any kind of a Bluetooth or a wireless connection, It's going to pick up the words around you, and it's going to be misleading. The only way to vet or verify the Ovilus or even the SB7 is by doing your historical background research. So if Joe milked cows in the dairy, and all of a sudden your Ovilus says, Joe, dairy, you might have something. Or, same thing with the SB7, and it says Holsteins. Oh, okay, cool. So he milked Holsteins. That's the only way to vet that kind of equipment. I don't like electronics. I prefer, and that's why I love the movie Conjuring. Because, love or hate the Warrens, that movie shows awesome, original investigation with old school technology.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we learned, and I've implemented in our group, was that someone, if not more than one person, has to have a voice recorder going 24/7. And one where you can set it up that every 15 minutes it makes a file. You know what I'm saying? Because if you have a 24-hour investigation going, to listen to 24 hours of audio will drive you insane.
Right.
We do our best to vet the equipment that we have. Something that I use that I really have found works very well, and I was very surprised by it, but we vetted it, and I have it, and a couple other people have it, and it popped up the same stuff on both of them at the same time. And it was in relationship to the conversation we were having with whatever was there. Is a product you get on your phone. It's called Ghost Radar. And Ghost Radar it looks like this little dot, and it comes in yellow, blue, or red, and it tells you how close the spirit is supposedly to you. But they also have a phonetic generator on there, and it'll just generate words that come up out of nowhere. It detects something, and it comes up. And we were doing an investigation, and I was in one end of a room, and the other guy was my buddy Al was elsewhere, and we were talking. We were doing our own separate interactions, and we asked a couple of questions, and we had the same pattern at the same times.
Could that not be the algorithm they use, though?
It could be the algorithm, but something I did do is in one of them, I put my name, my last name, which is not, it's Bowden, and it should be in any one of these dictionaries, which is about 60,000 word dictionary. And I put, my buddy's name, can you tell me my name? And at one point, I got my name pop up. So that was kind of weird. He has an SB7. It's the most annoying thing on the planet.
We just got one.
Yeah.
We haven't taken it out in the field yet, but we just got one.
Shut it off. I want to shut it off. Now, here's the thing, and I want you to try this with it, okay? Because I'm going to point out something. We talked about this. I talked about it briefly. 5 minutes
either way.
There's a show on I believe it's Amazon Prime. It's called Hellier. It's by the Newkirks and stuff. And what they have in there, they're talking about synchronicity, and something we've done prior to I've even seen the show, and I haven't seen it until just recently, and it was just like, holy crap, this is so what we do. Something they do is they take the spirit box.
Brian.
Yes.
Oh,
they take the spirit box.
Dude, we fell asleep on that show. Honestly.
Hellier? Yeah, I had trouble with that.
I understand. What I'm trying to do is
long time.
Right.
The person using the spirit box, one, we hook it up and we do a recording to it.
Okay.
So we're going to record it separately. So you're not hearing at the time, but we're hearing the recording. It's gelling with whatever's going on in the spirit box. So we have a backup of that. The person that does it is doing it with headphones on. And we're doing experiments with these things where we're asking questions outside without that person hearing us and knowing what we're asking. And things are gelling. Things are coming, it's not like, you don't hear the static and all this stuff and get you excited and have a third party, but we're getting kind of responses to what we're asking. So I think there's something there that can be used.
Right.
But I'm also suspect because, we use a tri-field meter And in order to use a tri-field meter or any of these things, you really have to have a weather app going at the same time. Because lightning can be detected by these things about 6 miles away.
Right.
So you got to start thinking the science end of this stuff. It's not like, look, it lit up green, like big deal. There's a storm over in the next.
Oh no, absolutely, and that's why we have a scientist on the team, Markham.
Right.
And he's always thinking. He's always trying to think of ways to incorporate more ideas. So, like the
right.
barometric pressure, get the baselines of everything. Everything.
Right. I mean, you got to be suspect of a lot of stuff, even though you're getting stuff.
Right.
But something that's always freaked me out, and I'm just blown away every time I hear it, is electric voice phenomena. You know, where you're like, for example, when we did that cemetery, where we had that like encounter with what we, the dogman thing. I had a voice recorder going, and I my hand to God, if you listen to this voice recorder, and we're not pulling it out of thin air, it sounded like I heard on the voice recorder. It sounds like a horse and a cart walking on cobblestone. It's like no way. Or you get answers to things that are just. It's kind of interesting. I just can't explain it. I can't explain it why it's there or how it gets there, but it's there.
Right.
On that note, that is all the time we have, guys.
Yeah, we got to get ready to start the last show of our 24-hour marathon. Real quick, where can we find your books? Because I know you're working on a book series. Do you have anything out?
Yes.
Do you have anything out yet?
Amazon. Yes, I do have something else.
Okay.
I'm also a musician, by the way. So
a
lot of stuff, the songs I wrote a book called Words and Muses. It's on Amazon. You can look it up there. If you want to see my fat body on TV, tune in tomorrow night to the Travel Channel for Into the Unknown. It's a Jersey Devil episode. And you can also catch us on Podbean on Inside the Goblin Universe. And then also wherever podcasts are around. So, but we're here. We're on Facebook. We're on all the social media. And it's been a pleasure to be on.
Outstanding. And we'll see you in the next 3 hours for a roundtable.
Yes, I'll hang in for a few moments there and see what I can do. My wife's looking at me and like, are you done yet?
Okay. We'll just let you go because we got roundtable. Go ahead and take off, and we will catch you later.
Yeah. Don't forget, guys. We will be back at 7 p.m. exactly on the dot with Joe Algier and Francie Miller for the S4 Roundtable.
Excellent. And don't forget, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.